Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Indra in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 101, Anatomy of a Disaster 2. There was one thing Toru had lied about to Naruto. The Uchiha clan had never played a part in his father's death. It has to be done, Toru, Shisui informed his younger brother. But in truth, he was mostly saying it for himself. And he was shaking. Their father, smiling an empty smile, just went along with Shisui, who helped him along. Toru just saw his mother's murderer. Are you sure? Toru asked again. Yes. What if he turns against you, next time? He's already gone, anyway. Shisui muttered. And rotting in a jail for the rest of his life is going to be so much worse. It's the least I can do for him. Despite. How long will it take? Toru just asked. His world already felt as though it had ended, anyway. What did it matter if his brother wanted to offer their medfather a mercy killing? Toru couldn't even see his face anymore, he just saw blood. I will be back, in just a few hours. His suffering will be over, then. Shisui said, closing his eyes. I want to come. There is no way. He is my father as much as he is yours. I have to come. Toru insisted. Don't. Please. Toru begged. He was my father, too. I need to come. Shisui ended up relenting. They brought their father, Uchiha Shihei, to the forests away from the village. Everybody knew there was nothing left of his mind, and nobody dared asking any questions. Shisui slit their father's throat and they remained by his side as he faded away. Toward the end, Toru could almost swear he saw some flash of clarity come back into his eyes. Something that tasted like regret. They burned the body, and the smell of scorched meat filled the air, until there was nothing left. And they never told anyone. Shisui returned from the forest with the Mangekyo Sharinan, and the will to do what was needed to protect their village and family. Toru wondered if he himself hadn't loved their father enough. Toru panted. He woke up covered in sweat, and feeling as low as he ever had. The dreams had been particularly bad, tonight. Worse than those that had always plagued him. Worse than those from the night before, when they had met Shisui, even. Nightmares about things he'd rather forget or not think about. His deepest fears, and his darkest thoughts. Friends dying in a senseless war. The smell of burning flesh, fat clinging stubbornly to the bodies, the flames guided by his own hands. His father's unseeing eyes, nothing of his revered skill and intelligence holding up to the inevitable passing of time. The flash of pain at the end. His mother's death throes, cursing him in her last moments. Blood on his hands. The very real possibility that with Konoha refusing to acknowledge the truth, he would have to fight and kill former comrades. He saw his sword going through their throats, their betrayed expression when they met his eye. Shisui lying dead at his feet, a sword-sized hole in his chest. Himself, bending down to pick his eyes, taking the strength he had always been so envious of, deep down. His brother's blood on his hands. Whispers about the constant danger that hovered over Sasuke, Itachi, Shisui himself. Naruto and the rest of them. Shisui's place in all of this. He remembered his mother again. Her, cursing him with her dying breath, as he sat there covered in her blood, waiting for someone, anyone to tell him it was going to be fine. Shisui did, but he was just another child, back then. Their father, just watching, not understanding. Blood on his hands. Red. The color of her blood, of the burning Sharinan. Of the memories he would never forget. Her perfume, mixed with iron. The smell of burning meat. You shouldn't have been born at all. Toru really should have died in her place. He heard a nagging voice in the back of his mind, telling him everything would be fine if he just. Toru ignored it. Or he thought he did, at least. He left Umi silently, appearing in the mainland, heading to the forest he had seen in his dreams. Instinct drove him. He had to be there. Why? Toru couldn't say. But something was calling him there. He would explain to the others tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow sounded nice. He wandered deeper and deeper into the woods, his body beyond his control. The voice seemed more and more alluring, telling him where to go. Naruto heard the sound of shattering glass. Or rather, it had felt like he himself had gone through a window pane. His breath caught in his throat. He couldn't say what happened exactly, but it felt as though the world collapsed around him. Absently, as if he were seeing the world through a cracked, mudded window, he noticed that the three women had a similar reaction. "No," Sakura whispered, her lone eye misty. Ino was rooted on the spot. With a sinking feeling, he tried to reach for the bond with Toru, which had flared for a second, before it suddenly turned silent entirely. There was none of the awareness he usually felt, even in the last day and a half, since Toru had closed the direct communication link. The last thing he saw through it was the sights, the sounds, the smells of a misty forest. "Toru," he called, but got no answer. Of course he didn't, he had kept the bond shut. Naruto stood up in a flash, his cloak appearing around his shoulders. "I'm going after him. Wherever he is," he said to the three women. And he needed to send a few clones out to warn the rest of them. This took precedence over something like training. "We'll split, then," Karen said, her eyes wide. "It will be easier to find him this way," Sakura said, getting ready to leave as well. Naruto hoped he was wrong, and that the Uchiha had just been captured. For the time being, he ignored Yujito, whom he felt stir through their bond. They scoured the entire elemental nations. A few days later, in the Land of Fire's mountain range, the mists closed around Naruto. Failure after failure. That was all he had experienced over the last few days. Naruto had tried every single misty forest he could think of, no matter how risky, or how stupid it seemed. He knew he was probably a terrifying sight, by now. There was something wild in his soul, and he was certain his eyes reflected it. Naruto put on his mask. Now, he was deep in the mountains, passing through the small village of Kaofyuk. Some of the locals were giving him a strange look. Was it because of his mask, or because he was an obvious foreigner in a village that didn't seem like it got too much tourism? An old man stopped him. "Let me extend Kaofyuk's thanks for coming so quickly," he said, looking entirely too relieved, bowing low. Naruto said nothing. It seemed to be the best way to learn more about what was going on here. His own chakra was pulsing, reaching out. It was sparking across his skin. "Our contact, in Konoha, told us not to touch anything, you have my word." "We did not." The man seemed afraid, now. Naruto felt his own chakra shift in answer. "And we, that's how it was. We don't know who." "You have my word." Naruto's heart sank. "Where is the place?" he asked, his voice sounding more dangerous than he intended it to be. His chakra flared angrily around him, like a snake coiled to strike. The man pointed at the forest behind the village. Without asking for more explanation, or a guide, or anything else that would just slow him down, Naruto headed there. He wandered deeper and deeper into the woods. It was a seemingly endless cloud of trees and fog and silence. And worse, the mist was hot and humid, heavy. Naruto walked, his chakra lifting the mist where he went. The terrible feeling of dread inside his stomach, on the other hand, didn't lift at all. He walked under tall shadows. The forest didn't change. It didn't get darker. The fog didn't get denser. It was all the same. Naruto came to a stop. He thought he could smell something sweet, in a way that made him sick to his stomach. He extended his senses, until he saw it. A flash of the most terrible. For a heart-stopping moment, Naruto thought it was just his imagination. Or an illusion. Anything but dash. Hanging from the poplar tree branch was a strange fruit. Decay, helped along by the moisture in the air and heat, had ravaged the body so much that it was almost unrecognizable. His heart seized. Cold horror and realization spread through his body. A distant part of his brain, the cold, pragmatic, shinobi part, told him a few things. Too much time had passed. Too much to even scour his brain. Not that he'd ever subject Ino to this. Too much time for Konoha not to know just what was here. His left eye had been removed messily. Gouged out. There had been some resistance there. The multiple puncture wounds had turned everything into a pulpy mess, and the body was bloated, close to rupture, in a way that wasn't supposed to happen. No matter how soaked crimson the collar of his beige UMI fatigues was. No matter how puffed, purple and blue and bloated the face was. That wasn't supposed to happen. Especially not to Toru. For this was him, had been him, there was no doubt about it. For a moment, his mind went blank. This is the shinobi world. Naruto thought he heard a distant voice say. Something roared inside him, something snapped inside him. His chakra exploded out of him, consuming the forest in a searing blast of lightning. Toru's corpse remained untouched by his wrath. Naruto had a moment of startling clarity, of purpose. As if he had lived his entire life in a hazy mist, and only now could he see that he needed to kill everyone involved in this. He needed to kill anyone who was ready to do something like this. Anyone who got in his way, too. And deep down, Naruto knew exactly where to start. Because who else would make sure to leave Toru out here in the open, just for them to see? To see what happened when you stood in the way of a man's ambition? Naruto stood there, hot fury and cold rage warring inside him, purple chakra burning his skin. The moon's eye was upon him. His stomach was on fire. Megatama was changing. He didn't notice it right away, but blue markings appeared under his eyes. He felt a wall within him fade away. Naruto howled his pain, his rage. The air around him turned blazingly hot, and the heat itself became light. His chakra exploded upwards, like a bolt of thunder returning to the heavens, splitting the clouds. A purple thunderstorm ravaged the land. He knew who to blame. Now he just had to figure out how to reach them. Sanity came back to him slowly. No, first he had to make sure. Only then did his voice break. How could this happen? One tree remained standing, untouched by his wrath. A familiar figure still hung from it, the rope still wrapped around his neck, which was covered in ligature marks. He didn't have it in him to touch him. Hands shaking, he bade Toru a final goodbye. So, Konoha was coming for the body, then? Let them have it. And let the people responsible for this have what was coming to them. The third spark was set. Chapter 102, Ashes/The Gathering Storm. A few days later. Konoha. Toru would have hated his own funeral. It was raining in Konoha. Only a few people showed up. It was considered in bad taste to be mourning one of Konoha's traitors, and the word sounded ridiculous to Sasuke. It didn't stop his family. Sasuke had to use all of his influence, all the goodwill he had earned himself, just to get back to the village in time. Next to him, Hinata stood, sobbing into his shoulder. And Sasuke had no doubt she also worried about what this would mean for her sister. Itachi was there, too, his eyes closed, a forlorn expression upon his face. There were several of their friends, and some people that he barely knew. That was unusual, for the Uchiha clan rarely let anyone else in to pay their respects to the dead. Kakashi was here, too, a faraway look in his eyes. He looked like a ghost. And he probably felt like one, too. Toru rested in a sea of flowers. They would set fire to it in a few hours. There was an unbearable empty space in Sasuke's heart. Ever since the moment he had realized, when Toru's half of the Daisho returned to him. He had seen his brother in all but blood die once, but this time. This was it. No more memories to be made. No more sneaking away from the village and their responsibilities. No more watermelon seeds spitting contests. No more running away from an angry, amused Shisui. No more Toru. He felt hot tears run down his face. And Sasuke knew that no matter if the blow came from him or from his cousin, someone would pay for this. Shisui, Itachi, and he knew there could be only two people behind this. Danzo himself, or Uzumaki Naruto. They wouldn't be fooled. There were Yamanaka involved, likely, unless this was a red herring, and they would find who it was. They would find their answers. This was a certainty. And speaking of Shisui, Sasuke's mother was with Shisui, pushing her own grief down, standing strong. As she always did. Shisui. Suzuki's breath hitched in his throat. Shisui's eyes scared him. UMI. Toru. Toru would have liked this. That's what Naruto thought, at least. He is dead, he doesn't like anything, anymore. That's what a voice said in his mind. Naruto ignored it. It was a pretty informal affair, if a well-attended one. Toru had been loved around UMI, usually. He rubbed some people up the wrong way. There was no body to bury. Not that it mattered much, since in UMI, people cremated their dead, all 2 of them, before spreading their ashes at sea. All of the attendees were standing on a grassy field overlooking the ocean. Toru had explicitly asked for one song to be played, in case he were to die. Even now, Naruto still didn't know if he had been joking or not. Nobody else had wanted to sing it, so Naruto ended up playing, with Hanabi singing it. Of course, a cheery song with heavy themes of murder, foul language and alcohol, opium abuse might have been too much for a funeral, anywhere else. But this was UMI. And this had been Toru. Some people still left, feeling offended, of course. He didn't care about them. There Naruto was, on a sunny afternoon, dressed in a wizard costume, from one of Hot Water's strangest comics, Toru's favorite. He used to insist a funeral was the best time for it. So were the rest of their friends. And so was Toru's not-girlfriend, Akemi, who looked devastated. They looked absolutely ridiculous, despite their red eyes. After the second song, a much more sober one, there wasn't a single dry eye to be seen, but Naruto saw many smiles as well. Naruto passed Orochimaru, who was wearing a wizard's costume, as well, and the man gave him a wise nod. Laughter and a fresh wave of grief bubbled inside Naruto's throat, and his shoulders started shaking uncontrollably. Yeah. Toru would have loved this. For a moment, Naruto thought he saw a woman with white hair, floating high above the sea. Looking at him, sadly. Then he blinked and she was gone. He already knew something was probably wrong with him, by now. Naruto stood on the cliff overlooking the ocean. The girls was here as well, next to him. The sun was setting, bathing their world in an orange light. Before, they all had been too distraught to talk about the elephant in the room. The fact that this was it. Toru was dead. The shattered bond, and the ever-echoing pain of it. It was time. What do you think? He asked them. Hanabi stayed silent. She looked very thin, Naruto realized. I suspect foul play. Ino began. And I should have known something was up. But he closed his mind off. I didn't dare force him to, any of us, really. I didn't think. It's not your fault, Ino. Naruto said flatly. There was no room for discussion, because this would never end. He wanted to blame himself, for one. He had believed Toru, and true to what he had said, Shisui had not trapped him or either of the UMI ninja using Kota Amatsukami's most potent version. There simply had been no moment where he could have done so. Naruto had kept an eye on his chakra the whole time. And he and Toru had double-checked the others. But he should have kept watch on him, no matter how many times Toru had pushed him away. Whatever had been done to him had made him leave in the middle of the night, Naruto was almost sure of it. He knew he couldn't have guessed, and considering how stubborn Toru was anyway, he probably would have found a way what was going to happen, but still. Hindsight was perfect, but hell. Could he have prevented this? Naruto knew he'd have to live with this on his conscience. Why had he listened to him? He had thought that Toru was just shaken because of the confrontation with his brother. How could he have? The tears didn't come now, he had spilled enough of them. But what he felt? It was selfish of him, but he would do anything not to have to feel this way anymore. And there were plenty of things they needed to do for the island's safety, too. This much had been made clear. Starting by erasing their own memories of the island's exact location. There were only 3 people who knew, but this was a security risk already. We already know he's been killed, though. Karen muttered. If the marks left on the body hadn't been enough, they all knew he wouldn't have killed himself. That's not what Ino means by foul play. Sakura shook her head. It's Ino hesitated. Naruto's eyes found hers. His own were hard. To Ino, it was difficult to see the boy she had known in Konoha. When had his face grown so hard, his eyes so sharp? He seemed like a statue. Death, by hanging. Ino started. Then she winced. Well. Suffocation, in this case. It used to be the way Yamanaka got rid of their enemies, long before the clan joined Konoha. Some people kept the tradition up. Ino paused. That was a long time ago, when they lived high up in the mountains, almost unreachable, protected by the mists. Before the clan even got their name. Mountain Men. What was done to Toru, was a clear way to send a message. That a Yamanaka did it. Naruto noticed she used they, rather than we. You mean? Karen breathed out. Yes. Ino nodded. It's almost certainly a Yamanaka's handiwork. Or made to look like it, at the very least. Whose? That's impossible to say. It had been days, when Naruto found him. That's too much time for me to tell, even if we had brought him here. So it is Konoha. Naruto gritted out. There was a man, there. Too far away, I thought, I should have brought the body, still. He really hadn't wanted to, at the time. Maybe. Ino winced. Long ago, the clan made sure they didn't have any rivals, when it came to the mind arts. There are a few mind readers left in Kumo, I believe, though. Things used to be even more brutal, back then. They wiped out almost all of them, with the help of the Nara, Sarutobi, and Akimichi clans. She paused. And if whoever Danzo, or Konoha sent did it this way, they likely want to make us look like we did it. That would fit, at least. Naruto tried to keep his cool. He really tried. It would make sense, from a purely practical point of view. But killing Toru? And pinning the blame on them? He breathed out. The air smelled like ozone. Naruto. Sakura began, looking at him squarely. It's nothing but a theory, for now. Even though. Yeah, that fits. I won't do anything rash before I know for sure. He said. But. Once I find the people responsible for this. If it's truly him. I'm going to kill Danzo. We know. Karen said simply. I'll help. Are you sure? Naruto asked. Yes. Naruto hesitated. Then he continued. I don't think I'm going to stop there either. He shook his head. I'm willing to kill anyone like them. If it takes purging half the village's higher UPS to reshape them. I will. But I know that you usually don't dash. I said I will help. Karen said sharply, shaking her head. I've seen what happens when we just try to stay away. I'd rather dirty my hands. And you're going to need someone to prevent you from actually going too far. All right. Naruto nodded, all too easily. At this point, it felt as though he were just looking for a reason. Anything. He looked at the others. Sakura just nodded her assent, as he had expected, really. Ino was more hesitant, which he could understand. Out of all them, she was the one with the most ties with the ninja side of the village. Only the people responsible for it. And those that would do the same. She finally decided. Ino spoke quietly. As long as we're talking about Konoha, at least. Of course. Naruto nodded grimly. Only the worst people. As always. For a moment, Naruto felt startled. The words had been his, but Ino just gave him a strange look. Let's plan how to get to them, then. Karen said. How are we going to find who's responsible? Sakura asked. Karen didn't have an answer. Only Toru would know. Ino said. There was something haunted in Naruto's eyes. There was no way to ask anything from the dead. Only Toru. Naruto repeated. There was no way. Only Toru. He thought, closing his eyes. There was a way. Yahiko Tower's rooftop. A megakure. Ah. It is only you, Zetsu. Uzumaki Nagato said coldly, noticing the unwanted visitor. The rain continued to drench him, from head to toe. Why would it matter, right now? There were plenty of other things on his mind. Zetsu. How many times did he have to tell the rest of them not to bother him, these days? Especially this power-hungry faker. Do you have information you wish to relay to me? Nagato finally asked, keeping his anger from showing. It was more dangerous to let his emotions get the better of him, these days. I don't. Black Zetsu spoke. Nagato scowled. The pressure in the air intensified. Leave, then. Black Zetsu didn't. I came here to talk about your plans. You're about to make a terrible mistake. This is not what we decided. I have changed my terms. Be glad I do not change them any further. What? Black Zetsu gritted out. Don't you forget dash. Nagato stood still. No. Maybe it was a good thing that Zetsu had come. Then there was a flash of golden light. His chakra gathered, quick as lightning, and his hand rose up. So did Zetsu, who only understood too late. He was already in midair, being pulled up. Chibaku Tensei. The small black orb hung over Zetsu, who strained to free himself. How dare you, Nagato? The black half roared. Why? The white half whined. A thin smile, closer to a rictus than any real amusement, stretched upon Nagato's face. I have no more need for you and your plots. The gravitational pull he exerted was a very precise one. Short-ranged, but extremely strong. There was no way either Zetsu would manage to escape it. No matter how smart the man-creature thought it was. Did you really think I would never notice? Nagato asked. That these eyes have not been mine since birth. It didn't matter. They were his, now. Wadash. That you are not what you say you are. Nagato continued. You are ancient. Almost as ancient as the sage, it seems to me. Who, or what you really are? Well, I do not care to know, I have to admit. There was true panic in Zetsu's eyes. Nagato relished in it. Nagato. Release me. You have no idea what a foolish mistake you're committing. Black Zetsu roared. HMPF. Nagato let out a low chuckle. I do not care to hear your delusional ramblings. Be gone. With a grunt of exertion, and his golden chakra flaring around him, Nagato sent the small moon hurtling. With all his might. Aimed at the sun. Black Zetsu was never heard from again. Chapter 103, Ashes/Chasing the Wind. The Hokage's War. By Yamanaka Ino, Omise Hinban. Focus. Orochimaru's sharp words brought Naruto's mind back to the task at hand. Naruto just nodded. His frustration was reaching a boiling point, though. You're not focusing. I am. He growled out. Naruto continued to sit there, trying to feel whatever the world's pulse meant. But he had never felt so far away from it. What was meditation supposed to do when? Orochimaru sighed. I know how you are feeling. But we have no time to waste. Let it out. Naruto's teeth clenched. Show him. He pushed the whisper aside. Let it out? You know how I'm feeling. Burning anger coursed through him. You? Everything is a joke to you. You're wrong about that. Orochimaru said calmly. And it's normal for you to feel that way. You have no idea. Naruto's voice shook. He clammed up. I don't want to talk about it. It's especially bad when you feel as though it's your fault. And you do. Orochimaru's eyes were penetrating. You think that if you had pushed harder. If you had gotten Ino to check him thoroughly. Shut up. Naruto whispered. It would not have happened. Orochimaru crushed the thought. In this, Toru was very Uchiha. He would never have submitted himself to the sort of jutsu needed to root out this possession. Even if he had been in his usual state of mind. I don't want to hear it from you. Naruto roared. You want to kill them. Enough. You want to kill the people responsible so badly that you feel your blood turning to fire. You have no fucking idea. Naruto screamed, feeling his throat strain. Orochimaru's expression was calm, belying the true emotion that Naruto could read in his eyes. That, more than anything, stopped Naruto from attacking him, no matter how bad of an idea this would have been. I have been a shinobi for half a century. I have lost many, many people. Most of them were killed brutally. I know exactly what it's like. He smiled, it was a cruel one. And I won't pretend I didn't enjoy paying them back. Iwa. Kumo. Suna. Kiri. Taki. Aim. Naruto quieted down. Orochimaru continued. Nagare, Sora, Kusa. Kakunkatsusen. Kesho. Kawega. Some of these villages had been destroyed, Naruto knew. Now he wondered by whom. It would be hypocritical of me to stop you, for this exact reason. I am a killer. Orochimaru shrugged. One of the best in the world. If that is what you wish to become, I can make you the sharpest sword in the world. Naruto barely breathed. And it won't take long. You are strong already, and now you have the will. But first, make sure this is truly what you want. Orochimaru said. Killing without a purpose. Orochimaru paused, laughing. To think I would be the one saying these words. Killing without a purpose, is senseless. The things I have destroyed. Their disappearance changed nothing. So if you are going to go this way. Orochimaru's eyes glinted. Make sure that you become strong enough to change things, make them anew once you destroy them. I wasn't. The casual admission took the wind out of Naruto's sails. He stayed silent, deep in thought. Now. You want to kill Danzo first. Possibly his entourage, if needed. Orochimaru said. Naruto stopped breathing. How? The man gave him a wry look. It is obvious, there is murder all over your face. You're going to need to work on your expression. Naruto felt anger rise once more. Are you going to stop me? Orochimaru chuckled darkly. Certainly not. Naruto blinked. Now, maybe it's a bad idea, considering your mental state. Orochimaru ignored Naruto's incoming retort. But the man has been a thorn in my foot for too long. And you have to start somewhere. Suit yourself. But don't forget our goal. Akatsuki. I definitely won't. Naruto shot back. And I'm ready for them. Except Nagato. The older man nodded. Now remember Danzo might want you to come to him. Orochimaru warned. Caution will be needed. Sakura knows how to make it work. I understand that. There is one more thing. Orochimaru said. What is it? I will ask you not to touch Sarutobi-sensei. Orochimaru said, his golden eyes fixed upon him. Naruto kept his anger down. I am still not sure what I'm going to do about him. Good. Leave him, then. Why? Naruto asked, slowly getting angry again. Is it mere sentimentality? He spat Orochimaru's words back at him. The man chuckled. Partly. There is something else, though. What? There is one of Lord Second's jutsu that he hid from us, still. He hid it? Which one? The one called Edo Tensei. Edo Tensei. Naruto frowned. What is it? It is a reanimation jutsu. Reanimation? Naruto asked, his lips dry. This might work better than what he had planned. It won't work. Orochimaru crushed his hopes. It is not a perfect one, far from it. Some call it an abomination, even. You probably don't want to bring him back like this, I would say. If Orochimaru said so, he believed him. But it is one that might prove to be useful. Orochimaru said. Sarutobi knows it too. Which is why he must have hidden it. This, and mistrust for us. But the closer that jutsu remains in Konoha, the closer it is to Danzo. And this is bad. Which is why we will need to find him. Alright. I'm very glad we mostly settled this matter, then. Orochimaru said, somewhat amused. He stood up. What about the training? Orochimaru laughed. It is meditation. I think you can manage this much on your own. Don't lose your focus, this time. Where are you going? Well, I still have to speak with the 4 of your friends as well, do I not? Orochimaru shrugged. Naruto blinked. Orochimaru just shot him a mysterious smile. You're not the only one engaging in self-flagellation. We can ill afford that right now, can we not? Naruto didn't accept Toru's death. How could he, with a broken bond taunting him forever? But some of the madness, the howling grief receded. He could function again. Are you sure you want to keep living here? Naruto asked Hanabi, as they were sorting through Toru's belongings, with the rest of them. It is my house as much as it was his. She just said. Won't it be lonely? Ino asked. Hanabi lifted an eyebrow. I'm not going to join you in your haven of sin. Karen chuckled. I don't think this was quite what she was asking. I'm good here either way. Hanabi shook her head. But you shouldn't worry that much about me. Akemi, on the other hand. Naruto winced. Akemi, Toru's not girlfriend, had definitely looked very somber these last few days. Well, all of them had. It's not a matter of who's suffering the most. Naruto said. I'll be fine. That's what Toru had said, too. Back before. I know you were friends, despite how much you squabbled. I'll miss him, too. Always. Naruto said. Not just because the bond would make sure of it. Hanabi's shoulders shook slightly, and she wasn't looking at him. Naruto wasn't sure whether to stop here or to continue. This is so unfair. She said, low and angry. Yes. If I had never listened to Neji that day, why did he have to throw his life away? Hanabi asked. Ugly, hot tears ran down her face. For me. Ino took her in a hug, and Hanabi stiffened. Not for you, not because of you, either. Ino said. He was murdered. And we won't just stand idly, will we? No. Not at all. Hanabi sniffed. Naruto continued to go through Toru's belongings. He noticed a few things. First, he got rid of Toru's hidden stash of erotic magazines, silently. Yeah, there was no need for anyone to see what he really liked. There were more stats sheets, of people Naruto didn't know. But more importantly, he hid more comics in there. Naruto said out loud, a sad little laugh escaping him. For real? Ino asked. Well. Let's continue publishing them, then. For whomever is actually reading our papers. And there were a few people, apparently. Whether they believed what they read or not was another question. Naruto agreed with her, it would be a nice tribute to Toru, anyway. Hanabi whispered something. What was that? Sakura asked. I said I'll take over the comics. I'll draw them for the newspapers. Those are mostly funny comics. Sakura said. So what? Hanabi retorted. She has about as much humor as a dead bird. Naruto thought. Not that he was going to say this out loud. Ino apparently caught the thought, because she stifled a laugh. Okay. Great, then. Sakura looked dubious, at best. Do you even know how to draw? Naruto asked. Hanabi shrugged, wiping the last of her tears away. I'm Hyuga. But if you want to help me with something else. Hanabi began. I've got an idea for my cousin. Over the next few days, new security measures were put in place. The Shisui incident stayed on Naruto's mind the whole time. The most important being putting someone in charge of the archipelago's security, full-time. If Shisui could sneak someone in, then so could anybody else, if they were talented enough with genjutsu. The second measure was removing all of the marks around the island, except a central one, that led to a seal-protected building, where 3 people, all of them instructed by Ino in the mind arts, would do a customary check on people's minds, for possible influence, nothing invasive. No matter if they were entering or leaving. But then again, was this problem true for all hidden villages? Naruto wondered. Because this was a glaring weakness. Could they just do the same? sneak in someone under a genjutsu this easily? He knew most villages had a sensing barrier, but he doubted that it would detect anything burrowed deeper. Naruto realized that what had been wrong with him before was only getting worse. He could make all the claims of sanity he wanted, but something was clearly off. And he could not tell what it was, exactly. Was he going insane, finally? He hadn't always been like this, he knew it. But whatever was happening, he would shield the others from it. Even if he had to push them away. Are you trying to push us away? Ino asked, arms folded, the very next day. Naruto sighed. So much for that. It's for the best dash. Look, if you want to brood somewhere in a dark corner, please feel free to do so. Ino said. But I know you. You're worried, right now. And she knew it was not just about Toru. Naruto pursed his lips. Maybe that was the trouble with having a psychic lover. She didn't even have to read his mind to tell when he was being dramatic. It's nothing. He scowled. Ino glared at him. There was fire in his eyes, the same way as always, when she was truly angry. I stood by when Toru said the same. Ino came closer to him. It won't happen again. Ever. Not on my watch. She punctuated every word with a finger poke. And I know you. If it's not about you feeling responsible for everything that ever happened. Her voice rose. It's about your thrice-damned ancestor. Hearing his voice. Confront him, then. The way you always do. Tell him it's about time for him to go back to his grave. Naruto just stood there, mouth parted. And if you get any stupid ideas about trying to protect us, she said, nostrils flaring. By hiding us away in a nice little corner of this island. Well, think again. She finished. Ino pushed past him. Then she continued to speak, without turning to face him. If it's about Toru, about his death. Or fearing that we might die, too. Naruto winced. Well, I'm sorry to say it, but you're going to have to suck it up. I am a shinobi, not a trophy wife. I'm sure Karen and Sakura feel the same. Once more, he stood silent. Besides. Ino laughed. This bond thing is quite permanent. And it goes both ways. We won't let you risk your life while we sit on our asses. Fair point. So. No. You won't get rid of us so easily. Not after all the shit you put us through. Ino chuckled darkly as she left. Naruto let out a long-suffering sigh. Maybe he should have stayed in Konoha, become a nice little lapdog and married a civilian, or something. Still, his lips twitched, and he couldn't help but smile. Did Ino slap some sense into you? Karen asked, smiling lightly. Good. She's better than me at it, I can admit this much. What makes you say that? The fact you don't look like you're still thinking about the best way to disappear from the world. He winced. Karen chuckled. You mostly look like you're in need of a hug. Naruto said nothing. She snuggled close to him. He didn't object. She needed it, too, he knew. Very early in the morning, Naruto usually was found going through the same routine. Dissociating his ever more volatile emotions from the calm he needed in battle. It wasn't perfect in any way, and sometimes he wondered if he was about to give himself yet another problem in doing so. But to some degree, it was working. The meditation, the stillness of the mind, the sureness it brought him. His chakra felt stronger, his jutsu became powerful enough to change the very air around him. Lightning was his, wind was his. And sometimes he dreamed that he was the storm. And then he wasn't. Naruto steeled himself. Right now, he wasn't much. There were two things he needed to do. Besides training, which was a particular brand of hellish, these days. He opened his bond, focusing on one specific person. Hello, Yujito. No answer came. He tried again. For a second, he feared the worst. Instead, he welcomed the anger that he received through the link, gladly. What the hell was this? Yujito sent, hissing. And why didn't you say anything for days on end? I'm sorry. Naruto said, insincerely. My friend died. What you felt through the bond was the consequence, I assume. Yujito paused. She sighed. No. I'm sorry, then. I shouldn't have assumed. It's on me. I explained nothing last time. He sighed. But yeah, I don't know if I would still call this bond a good thing. Why not? He gestured at nothing. She somehow got the message, still. Well, yes. She admitted. It is more painful. But would you really trade the sort of understanding I think you have built with your friends, for less pain? Naruto hesitated. No. I don't think I would. There you go. Yujito smiled. He smiled, too. But that's not what I wanted to ask you. What was it, then? Is there somewhere we can meet? Far from your troops. Naruto stood in front of a mirror. He had avoided this for too long. Afraid. He stared. A man that was not himself stared back. Then it flickered and he was back to staring at himself again. He stared at his reflection. He thought he saw an arrogant smile that wasn't his, pulling at his lips. This time, his fist smashed through the mirror. Ino had been right. Her words made sense to him. The voice, the one that he had started to hear more and more clearly since he had found Toru. This one, he couldn't get rid of. This is but a mirror. It only shows you what there is to see, Uzumaki. The voice said, amused. These thoughts weren't his own. Ino had gotten this part right. She had simply been a little off the mark. Because the thoughts, the voice, they were Indra's. But not all of the unwanted memories that blurred with his own were that man's, either. And now, he was sure that Toby was not Madara. Chapter 104, Ashes/an Ideal. The next day. Land of hot water. Why did you simply not ask me, then, Uzumaki? Naruto ignored the voice. As he did, most of the time. Are you, well? You didn't react when I called your name. A woman's voice asked. His focus turned to Yujito, who had accepted to meet him on neutral ground. She looked even more tired than last time, and weariness was obviously eating at her. Gods. Yujito breathed out. You sure about this? Absolutely. Naruto nodded. And you think it is a wise idea? She asked. It is frowned upon for a reason. Not for a good one. Was all that Naruto said in response. Yujito remained quiet for a long while, obviously thinking. Perhaps you're right. Yujito said non-committally. Can you ask, then? You really have become demanding, aren't you? Yujito frowned. My bad. He shrugged. I find myself in a bit of a hurry. Yujito gave him a long, searching look before she entered a trance-like state. She still trusted him, then. For now. Her eyes opened again soon. Madatabi doesn't want to hear anything about that man. Yujito repeated. Naruto let out a long sigh. Was it about something he himself had done, or his father's creations being spiteful again? Naruto blinked. He shook it off and focused again. Then let me talk to it. Naruto ventured. To her. Huh. Madatabi is a she? Yujito sighed. She looked at him carefully. And again, she really doesn't want to talk to you. Naruto closed his eyes. Tell her I don't come on behalf of my ancestor. Neither of them. The term was a simplification he didn't like. As far as he knew, they were not even blood-related. Not that it changed much here. You're going to owe me one for this. Yujito groaned. Yujito's mind was a very different place from his own. For one, they were not in a sewer. Which he was not going to complain about, as he much preferred the mountains he could see around them. And maybe it said something about both of their mental states, too. The second thing. There was no cage, either. The seal was more or less open. A gigantic Nikomata, made out of pure blue flame stared at him. Her distaste for him was pretty obvious. Next to him, Yujito gave him a wry look. I told you so, her eyes seemed to say. You reek of them. I beg your pardon. The worst of them. Indra. Rajan. Ah. Yeah, that. Not much I can do about it, he said dryly. Compared to the Ninetails, she seemed somewhat less impressive, he thought. The same twisted ambitions, as well? Madhutabi snarled in disgust. Not as easy as you thought. The voice whispered in his head. You can blame the little Senju for this, not us. Madhutabi the cat hissed at Naruto using her name. He paused. Bad idea, then. I do possess their chakra. It is true. But I am neither of them. Not Indra. Not Rajan, either. Lies. Your soul. The same soul. The beast hissed. You will destroy the world, should you live enough. Fate is but one thing. Naruto shook his head. The only ambition I have is to stop these endless wars. And live my life in peace. The cat snorted. Yes. But of course. You only mean to help. Naruto let himself hope for a second. The two tails jumped forward, mouth open, gleaming fangs out, a void of ethereal flame opening in its mouth. Naruto let lightning come to him, so it worked, even here? Madhutabi. Please. Yujito put herself in between the two of them. The beast halted in front of her. Yujito. You would defend this wretch. I brought him here. She said wryly. The least I could do is get him out safely. Then do so at once. Remove him from my presence. The cat growled. I have heard similar words before. Before my freedom was taken from me. By his soul brother. See. The voice laughed. This is not on me. Naruto ignored him. I have come here to ask for your help. He repeated. The cat hissed. You dare. I dare. Yujito is the only reason I'm not burning you alive. I know. Naruto nodded. The beasts had very valid reasons for being so misanthropic, of course, but still. It made them a pain to deal with. Yujito, who shot him a very unimpressed look. In return, I will offer you something. You. The beast laughed, a completely unnatural sound. Cats didn't laugh, and the beast was no exception. It was something she had learned from humans. You think you have something to offer me? You don't have to like me. I will give you the same thing I promised your older brother, the Ninetails. The two Bales stopped laughing. Sharply. The name of the strongest beast still held weight, then. Naruto took this as his opportunity to continue. After Yujito's death. Two pairs of eyes fixed on his own. One pair wide in displeased surprise, the other curious. He continued. Which I will do everything in my power to prevent. Upon her death, I will make sure that the world becomes a place that allows for your freedom. Naruto paused. That is, if I'm not around, myself, anymore. If I am. I will free you myself. On the condition that you harm no humans. Complete silence fell over the mindscape. What? Yujito hissed. You didn't say anything about this. I didn't. Naruto said. This is not your choice to make. Yujito said, angrily. It is not. You've been taking a lot of liberties recently. Capturing the 7 tails was not enough. She spat. The 2 tails in human eyes were upon him again, displeased. Had she not known? It is the truth. Naruto admitted. An unpleasant one, too. I have isolated the 7 tails in his container. And when I was younger, I was the one who sealed the 1 tails into Uchiha Sasuke. What? Back when I was 13, he and I, and our friend. We were faced with immediate danger and made a rash decision. It was a mistake, one that I only realized much later. It is a mistake I aim to fix, in time. Yujito gave him a long look. She didn't like what she saw. But as much as it is not my choice. It isn't Kumo's choice, either. The beasts are not weapons. The 2 tails scrutinized him, now. Unmoving. He knew he had put Yujito in a bind. She cared for the beast that she called by her name. But she cared for her home, too. She felt that it wasn't her right to decide on it. In all honesty, Naruto found it pretty weak of her. Kumo will be left vulnerable without Madatabi's strength. Yujito growled. It should still be up to her to decide whether she wants to lend it her strength or not. Naruto shrugged. Besides, the balance of power will soon be broken entirely. What's left of it, anyway? I will make sure of it, went on said. He would do what was needed, but preferred omission to actual lying, still. You've never asked her what she wanted, did you? Naruto continued. Maybe she had been afraid of the answer, of crossing over a boundary drawn in sand. Yujito glared at him. What do you want, Madatabi? Yujito asked, turning toward her. The beast said nothing for a long while. Freedom. Madatabi hissed. Upon your death. Yujito's face fell. I don't want to be used anymore. Not by humans, not by anyone. I see. And what more could Yujito say, considering the spot it put her in? I am tired of this world. Of people's cruelty. Of being caught in their wars. Yujito just nodded. Slowly. But you. Madatabi continued, facing Naruto. He waited. You're not any better. You are planning on committing terrible things. How many people will die in your quest for power? The people who deserve it. Naruto simply answered. Yujito looked at him as though she had never seen him before. Foolish words. The beast purred dangerously. Maybe. Naruto shook his head. I won't hide from my actions. Not my past ones. Not the ones I will take. Put the blame where it rightfully belongs. On me. A long silence stretched. Because I don't want to be anyone's tool, either. I will free all of the Biju once the Akatsuki is dealt with. And if that is even possible. He was still living on borrowed time, he felt, had been since most of the Nine Tails had been extracted. But that was a start. If that is even possible. He continued. I will find a way to free the remaining ones from their Jinchuriki without killing them. You, too, if you wish. More silence. Both Yujito and the beast were staring at him. Unreadable. Naruto waited. The cat rumbled. Yujito's feelings obviously conflicted between what the village wanted, and what her life partner wanted. And the fact that Naruto had gone over her head entirely with this. It had been underhanded of him, honestly. Maybe I was wrong about you, before. The Two Tails said. You won't destroy the world. You will just ruin yourself. If so. Then so be it. Naruto said with complete confidence. Better me than the world. HMPF. Madatabi snorted. The way I see it, I don't have much to lose here. Yujito whipped around. Are you taking him up on his offer? That will quite depend on what he asks of me. The beast's mismatched eyes fixed upon him. I need to speak to the dead. Of course you do. Madatabi hissed. It is my only request. Naruto bowed. Yujito still stood silent, arms folded. Madatabi observes him. You cannot commune with the dead. Madatabi shook her head. Naruto's stomach fell. He had thought. I see. He let out a long sigh. That complicated things, a lot. Madatabi stared at him. Naruto prepared to leave, bowing to a now angry Yujito in thanks, and preparing to leave. But I can. Speak their name and your question. Naruto took a long breath. There are two people. Uchiha Toru, and Namikaze Minato. And as for the questions. Madatabi rises, and with her, so do the whispers of the dead and the dying. My daughter, where is my daughter? Do none of you Kumo bastards have any shame, have any honor? Let my blood taint your dreams. I will wait for you there dash. Father. Mother. The whispers blend into a roar louder than the ocean that Madatabi always runs from, to make her home in the mountains. Madatabi rises, and listens to the echoes. Uchiha Toru. Madatabi began. Naruto had a feeling it wasn't going to be pretty. Well, if the only cost to this was what was left of his peace of mind, he'd take it. Uchiha Toru's soul is restless. He is full of regrets, tormented. He was taken brutally. Naruto felt his heart clench. He wasn't surprised, of course, but to hear it. He blames no one but himself and his murderers. It will pass, in time. The Pure Lands beckon. It would? That was something. What about your question? Madatabi asked, her voice rumbling with something just as old, ancient as the Nine Tails. He was killed by 2 Toshiteki men, sent by the one called Hokage. Naruto accepted the answer. And the cold fury that mounted within him. He had known. They all had. One question. Toshiteki. I believe they call themselves Yamanaka, now. The dead's patterns can be quite confusing. I see. Naruto nodded slowly. Ino had been right. Yamanaka working under Danzo, then. They shouldn't be too hard to find. Worst case, he could kill all of them. Was this his thought or not? And the other one? Naruto asked. Namikaze Minato is unreachable. Naruto frowned. Because his soul is trapped inside the Reaper's belly. That is not what I said. His soul does not lie with the Shinigami. What? Naruto felt as though his stomach was nodding. He has been there, with half of Kurama's soul. Not anymore, then. She was telling the truth, then, if she knew this much. Madatabi sounded displeased. No. He has been taken away from there. Recently, and somewhere I cannot see. And so was Kurama. I shall expect you to hold up your end of the bargain, Stormbringer. And I hope not to meet you again, but only fate will tell. When Naruto got out of Yugito's mindscape, reeling, her slap took him by surprise. What was this all about? She roared. Naruto took some time to compose himself. I needed answers. He simply said. You used me. Yugito growled. It was the truth, as much as Naruto disliked it. It was a simple truth, too. He had put his desires above hers, as he had known she would not have accepted his request if she had known what he had planned to offer to Madatabi. You have changed. Yugito said. And the way she had said it, she definitely didn't mean this in a good way. I have used you. Naruto nodded. And I am sorry for it. A truth, too, Yugito saw. How she hated him, at this moment. Uchiha Toru was your friend, wasn't he? She let out. Naruto didn't answer, and so she continued. The one who died. That was him. Naruto confirmed. What do you intend to do with the knowledge? Naruto just stared at her. She repeated her question. You may not want to know. He answered. What are you going to do? Yugito almost begged. The same thing I used to be too weak to do. I will bring change. What are you going to do? She roared. I am going to murder the Hokage. I will kill Danzo. Naruto admitted, his eyes dark. And the people he sent. And the people who agreed to it, likely. Whoever that is. A truth, Yugito knew. Naruto saw it in her eyes. She took a step back. Then she steeled herself. I won't let you do this. Yugito growled. I may not like it, but Konoha is Kumo's ally. Naruto smiled slightly. I wasn't asking for your permission. I know things about UMI you don't want Konoha to know. I can warn them. Right now. Are you going to kill me too? Or imprison me? She spat. Silence her. Naruto paused. That is true. He searched for something in her eyes. But, you won't tell them. Not when both you and I know that Danzo is a cancer to be removed. Not when I'm the only person you can talk about your raikage problem with. At least, the only one not bound to your village. And the same goes for me with Konoha. There are many that would want revenge on Danzo's actions. He thought of the love for Toru he had seen in Shisui, he thought of Sasuke, too. But they won't. Even if they knew. Because they're shackled to Konoha. Me. He chuckled. I'm not. Don't. She warned. Don't do it. You will dash. You won't be able to stop me. Naruto shook his head. There was no way she could reach Konoha before they could. He had just been waiting for confirmation. Everything is already in motion. You dash. Shimura Danzo has some of the dirtiest hands on the planet. Naruto simply said. I doubt many will be terribly sad to see him go. The world he aims to bring will be nothing but backstabbing and shadows. And yours won't be? Yujito raged. After this? You're well on your way to becoming more of the same, Uzumaki Naruto. He shook his head. It might seem that way now. But I am not. I haven't lost my way, either. I simply know where I'm going. And how to get there. You're insane. What makes you think you're so different from people like Danzo? From Akatsuki. I have people to center me. People like you. He said with a slight smile. You dare. You dare. Yujito looked ready to attack him. Her claws extended. She was shaking her head, and Naruto could feel her feelings of betrayal, disbelief, pain. Maybe I have changed some. Naruto conceded. I won't blame it on anyone but me. Not on the world, either. But it still needs to change. Not even on me, on us. The voice asked, amused. Naruto ignored him. And I'm not insane. You know it too, deep down. I can feel your emotions. You're afraid, but not of me. And you're afraid I might be right, too. Leave this place. Yujito said, baring her fangs. He just nodded. Don't come back. Naruto shook his head, somewhat sadly. I will, if you're in danger. Call for me. I won't. Leave before I kill you myself. This one has character. The voice said. Naruto ignored it. He still didn't know if it was real. And he was sad to see Yujito go. But it was part of the price to pay, to remake the world. Naruto knew that the path ahead would be full of blood, and that he would likely not be understood, and maybe he was following an impossible ideal. He would do it anyway. If he failed, then so be it. That was what he was ready to put his life on the line for. Because if something was wrong here, it was not him. It was the world. Chapter 105, Fire, Wind, Lightning. Konoha. There you are. Jiraiya's loud voice called. Sasuke's head whirled around. And here I thought I could have a nice day. He said with a long-suffering sigh. Truth be told, he was happy to see him again. He had been in a funk ever since. Well, a while. Jiraiya had found Hinata and he, sitting next to the Uchiha compound's lake. Ah, come on, now. Jiraiya smiled lightly. Don't be like that, Sasuke-chan. Hinata giggled. Hello, Jiraiya-sama. Hello, Hinata. See? She's polite. Jiraiya nudged Sasuke. What she sees in you. I could never tell. You're so bland. That's strange. I do not recall asking for your opinion, sensei. Sasuke said dryly. Well, I'm a pretty giving man. I'm offering anyway. The Sannin smiled. He then turned somber. A gigantic hand slapped Sasuke on his shoulder. I've heard about your cousin. Jiraiya said. I liked him, and I'm sorry to hear that. Why are you sorry? Sasuke mumbled. You didn't kill him. Jiraiya winced. Ah, you're in this sort of mood. Sorry. Sasuke shook his head. It's been a long week. Yeah. I know the feeling pretty well. The man nodded soberly. They didn't say anything for a while. Are you back in the village for a while, Jiraiya-sama? Hinata asked, cutting through it. It's been a while since we last saw you. We could have dinner together, before Sasuke leaves again. Ah. He scratched his head. I'd love to, but I'm only passing by, really. Really? Sasuke asked. Where are you headed to, then? This. Jiraiya began softly, in a conspiratorial tone. Hinata leaned in. Is a secret. He grinned. Jiraiya-sama. She protested. Sasuke rolled his eyes. It's not like you made the same joke 1,000 times, by now. My. You're still as fun as ever. Jiraiya said, with a twinkle in his eyes. If it works, it works. Sorry to spoil your fun. Sasuke said. Despite himself, he was amused. Sasuke stared at him, unsure where to start. As usual, Hinata saved him, in her demure tones. There's something Sasuke wants to say to you. She said with a smile. He's just bad with words. Oh. Jiraiya laughed. What is it? Have you finally decided to read my books, the both of you? No. Sasuke shook his head. Hinata hid a chuckle behind her hand. Hinata is pregnant. Jiraiya froze. For a second, it was like he was staring at something else. Then, he smiled softly. Congratulations, then. Sasuke. Hinata. Thank you, Jiraiya-sama. Hinata smiled. Yeah. Sasuke nodded. But that's not it. There's something else I want to ask. The same faraway look upon the Sannin's face. Itachi is going to be our firstborn's naming parent. Well, only technically, anyway, since his name was already picked before that. Ah. Jiraiya sounded relieved. But we're going to have at least one more child, I know. Hinata laughed. For real. Jiraiya blinked. Are you planning so far ahead already? Sasuke laughed openly. No. Not exactly. We're going to have twins. Twins. Jiraiya repeated. For real. It's a Hyuga thing, apparently. Sasuke shrugged, trying not to show his worry at the idea. 2 kids. He was going to be a father. It is a good thing. Hinata said, caressing her belly, with a sad smile. I wouldn't want our son, or our daughter to be lonely. Sasuke winced. He hoped Hanabi was alright, wherever she was now. Likely UMI, as well. He shook the thought away. And when that happens, would you do us the honor of naming the second? Sasuke asked, with a slight smile. Jiraiya said nothing for a long while. He closed his eyes. Are you sure? His voice was rough. Absolutely. You don't have to accept. Hinata said with an easy smile. No. That's fine. Jiraiya mumbled. Yeah. I think I'd like that. Naming your second-born, I mean. Great. Sasuke grinned. Don't give him a goofy name, though, he's going to have to bear it. You're not going to pull a Minato, right? Jiraiya asked, looking him squarely in the eye. Sasuke smiled softly. No. I promise. They sat there comfortably. I'm surprised, though, I have to say. The man chuckled. Because of the pregnancy? Or, the twins? Hinata asked. I thought Sasuke was ace, frankly. No interest for women, men, all that. Jiraiya admitted. Nothing wrong with it, though. He does seem that way, doesn't he? Hinata laughed. Sasuke groaned. Uchiha Sasuke walked the streets of Konoha, alone this time. He relaxed under the afternoon sun. Well, he tried. There were many things on his mind. His impending return to the front line. Toru. Toru. There was no way around it, he couldn't find it in himself to relax. The most he could do was to avoid the one tail from waking up. Sasuke-senpai. Sasuke-senpai. He snapped back to attention. A young boy was chasing after him. Sasuke recognized him. Takano Ueda, the latest academy rising star. A child prodigy from a civilian family, praised by his teachers as the best of his generation. Sasuke stopped in place, and waited. Ueda stopped in his tracks and gave him a big grin. He noticed a few teeth were missing. Here was someone who had the potential to become truly powerful in the future. Apparently. Will you teach me jutsu? The boy asked, eyes wide. Sasuke supposed this happened to most shinobi at some point. Somebody younger would look up to them, ask them for training, jutsu, advice. Frankly, Sasuke didn't really feel like it. But he remembered a few more things. That the boy had no family, and how he had felt whenever Itachi would skip on training him. He withheld a small sigh. Well, it's not like he was planning on doing anything, other than brooding. Sure. Thank you, senpai. The boy cheered. There had been plenty of people who didn't understand, back then, why Uchiha Fugaku's second son had decided to date the Hyuga heiress. Or why the Hyuga heiress had chosen Uchiha Fugaku's second son. It was hard to tell which part got them so confused. Because to Sasuke, it was pretty simple. Hinata was full of compassion, understanding, and could be hard, when needed. And he had been impressed. And she had always seen him for who he was. Not the Hokage's son. Not Itachi's supposedly less talented brother. The same way he hadn't seen her as the Hyuga clan heiress. Not Hanabi's slightly less talented sister, older than her by a year. They had been very young, back then. They became friends, and then more. It had been difficult, too, in the beginning. Neither clan was willing to concede much to the other. But they had managed. It didn't matter much to Sasuke that he would likely become part of the Hyuga clan in the future. And soon, they would have twins. Sasuke had barely believed it. Of course, considering the clan they would be born in, there would be complications. But Sasuke wasn't willing to budge on this, he would not let either be marked. He idly wondered if they would take after her, he hoped so, at least after him. What they would be like. And he hoped that they could grow up in peace. He would do anything for it. Do you have any hobbies, Sasuke? Itachi asked, out of the blue. Sasuke frowned. He thought about it. Not really, now. You used to love gardening. His brother frowned. Sasuke felt his ears redden. I was a kid, back then. So? Itachi's brows furrowed. Why are you asking, all of a sudden? Sasuke asked, somewhat suspicious. Was this about Toru, their father, or something else? Itachi shrugged. It's important for a shinobi. Especially during, and after war. It's not like I can start planting things on the front lines. That is true. Itachi chuckled. But you could find something else to do, as well. You don't even have hobbies yourself. Sasuke complained. But I do. Itachi smiled. What? Training? If so, I can say the same. No. I enjoy playing shogi. I play with your friend Shikamaru's father. Cooking is something I like, as well. And I collect antiques. Hinata gardens already, anyway. Sasuke almost grunted. Itachi laughed. And she's better than me at it, too. So? My point is. Alright, alright. I'll find something. Sasuke sighed. He hated being roped into something. Good. Itachi ran so fast that it looked like he was flying. He was chuckling, too. Sasuke took it as a challenge and used wind to bolster himself. He wasn't that great with it, but it provided some lift. It felt like childhood again. The war with Suna wasn't over, far from it, and Iwa didn't seem to want to back up at all, and he would have to return to fight soon, but there was no express need for him to be there right now. We will miss the sunset if you continue to drag your feet, little brother. Your beloved is already waiting, too. I'm trying. Sasuke retorted. The sky was already turning to soft pink, red, and gold above them. It's on you. Sasuke continued. With all your bluster and talk and foolish, little brother, foolish. Itachi laughed. We're almost there, anyway. If Hinata guilt trips me, I'm going to say it was you. Sasuke warned. I'm not dealing with the Sedais. I think I'll survive. Uchiha Shisui knew who to kill, of course. Anyone involved in Toru's death. That likely meant Uzumaki Naruto, his pet Yamanaka, and UMI's higher-ups. Hyuga, too, just for starting all of this. Then the two root members who had been responsible for warning Danzo in the first place. Then, if it really were Danzo, he would kill the men he had sent. And later, when the war was over, he would kill Danzo, for creating this mess in the first place. And then maybe himself, depending. But that could wait. He would need to get the truth, first. He knew he looked bad, to the outside world. Even Itaka looked worried about him. Whispers of yet another shinobi prodigy having lost it, whatever it was. Something about the Uchiha curse. It was a concept that came from the second Hokage, apparently, spread by who could only be their current one. Danzo could be a shrewd, cruel man, particularly toward the clans he despised. His loathing against the Uchiha seemed even more personal. He seemed to trust a few of them to some degree though. And he knew the importance of keeping Sasuke on his good side. But Sasuke was too nice, Shisui knew. He still wanted to believe that Konoha was a less dark place than the rest of the world. People once spoke of Shisui as the future of the Uchiha clan. He wondered where these people were now. They were always so quick to turn on others. In the end, people did what people did. They spoke, and Shisui found that he didn't care about it enough to really listen, right now. Because he knew that in just a few days, they might be back to loving him. Funny, how that worked. Shimura Danzo stood on top of the Hokage monument, overlooking the village. Danzo-sama. Sarutobi-sama has returned. He is here to see you. A masked root member kneeled. So he had come back, already? Good. Let him go through. Danzo simply said. He wouldn't, if it were anyone else. Are you feeling nostalgic this evening, perhaps? An amused voice said. Sarutobi Hiruzen walked closer then, wearing casual clothes. Hello, old friend. The man said lightly. It is good to see you. Good evening, Hiruzen. The Hokage greeted him. It is good to see you, as well. It was simply a formality. No matter how many times they disagreed, they squabbled and they fought, he did consider Hiruzen his only true friend. And Danzo waited for him to join him. It is a beautiful view, isn't it? Hiruzen chuckled, coming next to him. It is. Everything I do to protect this. Danzo's voice rumbled. Hiruzen smiled, somewhat thinly. Do you mind terribly if I smoke? He asked. Danzo waved his concern away. It is a disgusting habit. One that you would do well to get rid of. But I'll let you indulge tonight. The third chuckled. Oh, you have told me before, yes. He pulled his pipe out, packed it. Then he looked at him expectantly. Aren't you forgetting something? Danzo sighed and motioned for one of his umbu to light his pipe. The man had never grown out of this stupid ritual. If it weren't for the fact he was his oldest friend. Hiruzen grinned. That's good. He breathed the smoke out, slowly. You're not the Hokage anymore, Hiruzen. Danzo said dryly. Ah. He chuckled. Let an old man have his vices. Let's cut to the chase. What have you found? Danzo asked. Hiruzen sighed. Can you at least pretend this is just a friendly meeting? Why don't you send your umbu further away so that we can discuss this properly? Danzo gave him a long look. He gestured for them to leave. All of them. Hiruzen had been cleared by security, which included a Hyaga, anyway. And considering how hard it was to get into Konoha these days. Go ahead. Hiruzen ignored him, looking at the village, wistfully. Konoha at sunset. To me at least, it is one of the most beautiful scenes I remember. And this is a particularly nice place to see it, isn't it? Danzo grunted. The monument overlooks the village and its surroundings, yes. Hashirama-sama made a good choice, in this at least. It's a strategic place. A symbolic one, as well. Hiruzen looked at him, amused. Of course you'd say that. But don't you find it a bit too much, at times? It feels isolating, in a way. As though the Hokage stands far away from his own people. The Hokage must be an island unto himself. Well. Among all the opinions I have heard, this is definitely one of them. Hiruzen chuckled. Danzo rolled his good eye. We've wasted enough time, Hiruzen. Talk. What of aim? Danzo asked. Another long sigh. Hiruzen looked at the horizon, instead of answering. A contented expression was upon his face, and he seemed to bask in the sunset. Danzo turned to face it as well, with a grunt. What is it with you, this time? If you're intent on wasting my time tonight, you might as well come back tomorrow. He had other things to plan for. With Raza gone, courtesy of Heitake Kakashi, there were several ways things could go. He would need to. Hiruzen spoke, in the same rambling tones that meant he would say nothing of value. It's just strange, how dash. Which meant Danzo wasn't really looking. A flash of movement. Danzo whirled around, not as fast as he had been when he was young, but more than fast enough to counter the attack. And the motion had not triggered his senses. There had been no killing intent. He managed to grip Hiruzen's wrist, tightly. There were no weapons in his hand. The Sarutobi's eyes locked into his, with a smile that held a dangerous promise. Danzo had no fear. A Hokage that had to be protected by his guards would be a terrible one. Besides, he himself had made sure Sarutobi was always ready to spring into action, when they had been young. Assassination drills, they had called it, back then. Danzo lifted an eyebrow. Before he had time to react, something opened under their feet and took both of them away. Danzo tried to release the man, but it was too late. That was not a training exercise. Careless you can be, for someone so paranoid. A branch member, really. They were not on the monument anymore. Before an entire second passed, he heard a rattling sound and his body froze entirely, his chakra out of his control. What is the meaning of this? Have you lost your mind? Danzo growled. Had he finally snapped? Both he and Hiruzen appeared on top of a snowy mountain. There were some people scattered around them. Danzo had no time to focus on them, though. Well, you didn't notice anything was off. Hiruzen said, his entire body language switching to someone else's. I had a pretty good coach, when it comes to the third's mannerisms. And a lot of practice. Enough to fool even you, and you knew him for even longer than Orochimaru did. Of course. The transformation technique faded away, a minor chakra binding seal was broken, and a woman with pink hair that Danzo could swear he had seen before stood in front of him, the pipe still hanging from her lips. The clothes she had been wearing rippled, shifting into a thick cloak, one that covered battle armor. And suddenly, all Danzo could feel was a monstrously large chakra exploding into life, to his right. He turned to face it. Purple eyes, gleaming with power, surrounded by blue markings. Blonde hair that stood lightly on end from the amount of lightning chakra in the air. Uzumaki Naruto. Danzo spat. How had the woman passed the security? He kept a Hyuga around, specifically for this. And for that matter, how did she get inside the village? How did she bring them here? Hello, Danzo. Uzumaki Naruto greeted, a small smile upon his lips. Another woman came close to them. It is good to see you. Yamanaka Ino said, her voice as cold as her eyes. Danzo. Unfortunately, I think this might be our shortest meeting to date. Chapter 106, The Shadow of Konoha. Danzo couldn't sleep. He hated nights like these, where Konoha's summer heat made his skin stick to the sheets. He shook his head. He was a shinobi in training. Father always said that shinobi didn't show their pain. It was unbecoming, especially for a member of the Shimura warrior clan. And someday, Father said, someday he would show the world that with or without Konoha, the Shimura were a force to be reckoned with. Not through the strength of the individual, no. But through pure dedication to an objective. This, he said, was what made the Shimura shinobi one of the first clans. Senju Hashirama, said to be the strongest man of his era, approached with a proposal. One that had seemed preposterous, at the time. Sure, he had asked the Sarutobi at around the same time, Hiruzen's clan, but that was mostly for convenience. Danzo let out a long sigh. Father was right, likely, but it didn't make the heat any less unbearable. Or sleep any easier to find. Danzo rolled out of bed, splashed some cold water upon his face. He looked through the window. Strange. The sky almost looked orange, in the distance. Suddenly, Danzo was floating through the air, uncomprehending. Out of instinct, he was going to be a shinobi. Soon enough he caught himself on his palms. He winced. That hurt. Not that much. Pain was nothing to a shinobi. Was there an earthquake? He thought there weren't supposed to be any, in this part of the land of fire. Someone screamed, outside. The alarm started ringing, through the village. Father was here, all of a sudden, pushing him along. Go. Go. He roared. Danzo thought he looked afraid, but he knew better. Where? Danzo asked, as a loud roar echoed through the village. He almost lost control of his bladder. Right here. To the shelters. Hurry. Father roared. There's no time. What's happening? Uchiha Madara happened. Father spat the name like a curse. He came back with the 9 tails. To destroy us. Danzo gasped. Go. He roared again. Father pushed him into the arms of a shinobi Danzo didn't know, and disappeared through the smoke. In the distance, he saw the cause of this chaos. One man, standing proud on the head of the most ferocious beast Danzo had ever seen. Like a warlord of legend. And at this moment, Danzo couldn't tell which one he feared most, beast or man. Looking at the young man in front of him, there was honestly not much of Madara in him. So why was he remembering this, now? Was it for the 9 tails, that he knew a part of, at least, resided within the Uzumaki? So we finally meet. Danzo said placidly. His eye roamed over the summit. No wonder the woman had reached him. He could see that several of the Hokage Monument's guards had been brought here likely the same way he had been and knocked out by the rest of them. Uzumaki Naruto put a finger to Danzo's forehead with a frown, and did something to him. Naruto shook his head. No, we have met before. And I think you know it. His eyes were fixed upon him. You came by once or was it twice, now? At the Sarutobi compound. Enough for me to remember the way you looked at me. And you didn't even know who I was, back then. Danzo said nothing. Naruto chuckled. I know Sarutobi. Well, both Hiruzen and Biwako. If you decided to send Uchiha Shisui after me, and they agreed. That means the alternative was probably worse for them. What did they negotiate, then? Very well. If you're willing to speak openly of it, so shall I. Danzo's eye met the Uzumaki's, fearlessly. Whatever it was the Uzumaki intended to do to him, he would not waver in his resolve. I know you are Sarutobi Naruto, yes. And I know that part of the 9 tails, at least, still is sealed within you. Great. Since when have you known? Naruto asked. A while ago. Ino sighed. Did Sarutobi tell you, then? Naruto asked again. He didn't have to. Naruto lifted an eyebrow. He's telling the truth. A woman's voice said. Danzo twisted in his bindings enough to finally notice an Uzumaki woman, the chains extending from her hand. So you have found some relatives. Danzo simply said. The Uzumaki woman winced. Don't make it sound weird. Naruto snorted. A clan doesn't make a family, anyway. I'd know. Danzo stayed silent. So, I assume the old man and Biwako accepted your bargain because... Naruto thought about it. You threatened to reveal their involvement in the whole debacle of losing the 9 tails. He wouldn't say a word. Ah. So you figured that by saying nothing, Karen here wouldn't be able to tell if you were telling the truth. Naruto chuckled. Fair enough. Ino put her hand on his forehead. Danzo tried to shake her off. It was this, and because they would prefer you to stay alive. Ino confirmed. Alive, but mind-controlled. A loyal weapon to the village. Yeah, of course they would. Naruto sighed. I didn't expect anything else, frankly. You know, now that I have you in front of me. I realize I don't have that much to ask you. Besides where Sarutobi is, right now. But that's for later. And I don't care that much about your precious village secrets. Naruto shrugged, sitting back down in the snow. Before he even touched it, wind blew around him, clearing the snow and humidity under him. He sat there, waiting. So what is it that you want from me? Danzo spat. Are you aiming at weakening the leaf? Konoha will survive, with or without me. Good. Naruto nodded. He frowned. I don't want to see Konoha crumble, far from it. I'm just glad you're not in it anymore. Hopefully they replace you with someone who's a bit less terrible. Yamanaka Ino came to stand in front of him. Nothing you can do to me changes anything. Danzo said. Ino's kick took Danzo in the face. He winced in pain, but just stared back, impassively. He could see her blood was boiling. She punched him again. Stop, Ino. Naruto called. Ino punched him again. And again, until her fist was bloody, and his nose broken. Danzo spat out a tooth. The Yamanaka took a long calming breath. You're right. Sorry. Everything about him pisses me right off. I know. Naruto said. Nothing to apologize for. Ino turned back to face Danzo. Why did you have me thrown in the prison? Was it just because I was easy pickings? You know what? Ino asked. I know it's not going to help, but it feels damn good. She punched Danzo's face again. The Yamanaka then put her hand to his forehead. She could likely feel his emotions on the matter, then. Huh. She sounded surprised. You thought you brought justice? Are you sane? Naruto frowned. Was it because of the scrolls Sarutobi gave to us? She asked. Danzo frowned. Which scrolls are you talking about? He asked. Truth. The Uzumaki. Karen said, with some surprise in her voice. He didn't know. What? Ino glared at him. This can't be true. Did you really believe I was the one to kill the fifth? Yes. Danzo finally said. And so I did what was best for the village. You were the only one who could have done it. And you clearly had something to hide, on top of it. Truth. Are you for real? Ino raged. Something to hide? That's my mind. That's why you tortured me? That's something we do to enemies. Not mere suspects. How hypocritical of you. Danzo spat. You would have done the torture yourself, if given the order. The Yamanaka gritted her teeth. I would have. She took a long breath. Did you give the order to kill Uchiha Toru? Yes. Truth. Ino paused. Taking a long breath. Did you kill Uchiha Fugaku? Did you have anything to do with his death? Ino finally asked. No. Truth. The UMI ninja stayed there, without saying anything. Not verbally, at least, Danzo knew. Who did, then? The pink-haired woman, who Danzo now was pretty sure had been a Konoha shinobi for some months, years ago, asked. Haruki? No. Haruno Sakura, he was sure of it. This formerly unremarkable shinobi had somehow managed to pull the wool over him, using the simplest trick in the book. And picking the right disguise for the job. Suna did. Danzo said with conviction. He doesn't know this for sure. Karen said. We didn't ask you who you think did it. Haruno Sakura continued. Asuna poison was used. Danzo gritted out. One that can only be made by someone with very specific knowledge. Truth. Uzumaki Naruto interrupted, suddenly looking very serious. Is it the one that kills on chakra use? He asked, eyes hard. It is. Danzo nodded. Naruto closed his eyes. Would Sasori of the Red Sand be able to prepare it? He asked again. Is he your contact? Danzo asked. No. Sakura said. Would he be able to prepare it? Yes. Truth. Or he thinks so, at least. The UMI ninja shared a look. Uzumaki Naruto's purple eyes were fixed into his again. Danzo refused to flinch. I won't tell you anything more. Danzo said. I don't care. That's enough for me. Naruto retorted. He looked at Danzo again, and something in his expression turned wild. Wait. His chakra turned heavier, more suffocation. There's something here that I really don't like. He stood up, walking to Danzo so silently he might as well have been gliding. No. Uzumaki said, speaking softly. Still, his fury and his impatience were now obvious. Now he reminded him of Madara. Where did you get it? What are you talking about? Harano Sakura asked, uncomprehending. He took a souvenir. Karen said. From her tone, she had known. The chains still tightened around Danzo. What? Ino asked. Where did you get this? Naruto asked again, his voice barely louder than a whisper. I think you know already, don't you? Danzo asked evenly. The Uzumaki ripped the bandages around his head, revealing Uchiha Toru's sealed Sharingan. Uzumaki Naruto said nothing for a while. Had Danzo been able to use his chakra, he would have broken the seals he wore around his eye and gone for a genjutsu. Even though his inexperience with the Sharingan meant it likely would have failed anyway. Oh, gods! Ino paled. She was white as a sheet, her eyes filled with numb disgust. She took a step back. Harano Sakura looked furious. Uzumaki Naruto was simply silent. Until he wasn't. Stand up. He said shortly. Danzo made no move to do so. Or don't. Your choice. Uzumaki's hand flashed. The Sharingan was ripped cleanly from Danzo's right eye socket. Danzo let out a terrible scream. Uzumaki held the eye out to the Harano woman. Store it, please. Uzumaki said, voice clipped. She just nodded quietly, and disappeared in a flash of thunder. You just couldn't stop there, could you? Naruto asked coldly. There was no sadness, no remorse in him. It was one of the last things Danzo saw. At simply killing him. To protect Konoha, I'm willing to do anything. Danzo managed. Including killing, stealing from an innocent man you consider dangerous to the order you enforce, we know. A new voice said. Order, based on others' sacrifice. Just like the Hyuga. Danzo turned around, and a finger strike reduced his vision to nothing. Danzo howled, he was blind. An eye for an eye, right? She asked. Danzo's screams cut off. Hyuga Hanabi said nothing else. This is my answer. Danzo spat. There is nothing else I will tell you. Answers? Yamanaka Ino asked, sounding amused. We didn't bring you here for answers, not really. We can get these from you later. No, we brought you here to kill you, Danzo. Once that much was confirmed, Danzo reached inwards. He would take them with him, like any real shinobi would. He would protect the leaf, in his last breaths, taking away a few dangerous elements. Goodbye, old friend. Nothing happened. He felt real fear pool in his gut. Yeah. I disabled that, before. It looked kinda dangerous. Uzumaki Naruto chuckled. It wouldn't have worked anyway, with the chains. Uzumaki Karen muttered. No. Well. The same woman continued. I guess it's time to kill you, then. She didn't seem to really enjoy the idea. That wouldn't stop her, either. The chains tightened, ready to crush him. Let me do it. Yamanaka Ino said. Nobody opposed her. You won't get anything else from me. Danzo repeated. Your threats won't change anything. Oh, but we will. Talking to you about this was the best way to bring the few pieces of information we still want from you to the forefront of your mind. Ino said. She came closer to Danzo. Anybody here would love to kill you, I'm sure. She began. Me. I'm angry for the stay in your torture chambers. But that's not it. Everything you did, Danzo. Every single decision you took was based on a flawed ideology. Ino continued. Did you think you were so much smarter than anybody else? All the people you killed, all the convoluted plans you made. Well, we will undo that. Your memories will be a precious help. And then, will reveal your actions to the world. The good, the bad. Your fears, your shames. Danzo grunted, but there was something shaky in his voice. Oh, didn't I tell you? Ino asked. I could also see a little of what once was your hopes. Becoming a greater Hokage than even the second? Proving that you were just as good, better than dear Hiruzen. Ino scoffed. Your legacy will be nothing but that of a failure. A man who started a useless war, and plunged his very own village into a pool of shit. Don't worry. We'll put your name right next to the other traitors, as a cautionary tale. Uzumaki Naruto assured him, sounding amused. And we'll take good care of Konoha for you, once we take over. You will never, Danzo roared. We will. Or rather, we'll make sure it is remade in our image. Not the outdated visions of violence and backstabbing that are yours. Something better. To hear this, Uzumaki Naruto seemed to think aloud. Maybe as a small part of something bigger, more encompassing. Was he serious or just mocking him? How Danzo wished he could kill the Uzumaki himself. This was no Uchiha Madara, it was worse. Madara at least, had been alone. This one had a village behind him, and people who actually supported his madness. Congratulations, Danzo. Ino clapped. You've made it. For such a bitter, insecure, and deeply jealous man. You've come pretty far, haven't you? She came closer. You will be remembered as the man who ruined Konoha. Him? Him. They were about to ruin everything. Over what, revenge? And Danzo felt as helpless as a baby. She pulled something out. This one is for Toru, then. Yamanaka Ino said. Her blade went through his throat and he choked upon his own blood, slowly. That was it. The end of the road. He had failed. After all these sacrifices. What was I, to you? What do you think of someone like me? Danzo wasn't afraid. Being afraid was unbecoming of a shinobi. He wasn't afraid. Maybe he was. He wondered if Hiruzen would. The illusion broke. He was still there, kneeling in the snow. There was no wound on his throat. Still, he gasped for air. Oh. Before. Yamanaka Ino asked. I lied. You're not going to go so easily. Not you. Now. I'm not a big fan of it, but I'm sure I can pull off the torture act, one last time. Danzo was stripped of everything he wore. The few plates of armor he had been wearing under his garments fell away too. The humiliation made him seethe. Ino kicked him, and he fell down with a grunt. Only then, she really dove into his mind. By the time Ino stopped, Danzo didn't care what happened to him anymore. What could be worse than this? Physical pain would have been much easier. Much easier. Many of the things he kept so jealously were exposed to these beasts. And he knew that what few were left, she would take care of later. He had no more will. Every shame, every pain, every regret. All of this was brought back to the surface again. And the wounds felt rawer. Failing to find his courage in front of the only man he had ever looked up to, leading to being passed over for Hiruzen. His unrequited feelings for the man, the ones he would never admit. His jealousy, too. The plans he had made for Konoha in the future. What little flickers of hope he still had left. She had scraped every inch of his brain, it felt. All the ugly parts, it seemed as though she knew them. He knew that even if he had been left alive, sleep would have eluded him for a long while. Danzo was incoherent, babbling aimlessly. He had lost control over himself, in more ways than just this. It was something ugly to see, and raw too. The Yamanaka removed her hand from him. She was breathing hard. Uzumaki Naruto came close to his ear. His words brought clarity back to Danzo, like an unwanted dive in icy water. Are you still afraid of me, Danzo? He laughed. After all this time? Don't worry. The Nine Tails and I have an agreement, this time around. The words were the last he heard, and he would never know if Uzumaki was telling the truth or not. If he truly were Madara in the flesh? In this moment, no matter how impossible it seemed, he could believe it. Tears ran freely down his face. When they finally pulled the rope around his neck, and slowly pulled him up in the air, where he choked, in a mockery of what he himself had ordered. It almost came as a relief. They wiped the guard's memories, and Naruto dropped them off somewhere close to Konoha, unconscious. Danzo's corpse was kept as pristine as it could be, and Ino started ripping his memories right away. Ino had some news for them. There are a few things, she said. Well, plenty, but I will spare you the atrocities such as the failed attempts to bring back Mokuton through the use of orphans and the like. Go on. Sakura encouraged her. She then held her pipe out expectantly. Ino growled, but she complied and lit her pipe. Sakura muttered a vague, ungrateful thanks. Ino took a steadying breath. Yamanaka Fu and Yamanaka Kazuhiro carried the act. I see. Naruto said evenly. The way his fingers were drumming on the table betrayed his apparent calm, though. And so did the feeling of static in the air. There was always an animal-like stillness to him after a battle, or a murder, like tonight had been. It usually took him a little while to regain his usual warmth. For the storm in his eyes to recede. It was probably true of all of them, tonight. Naruto's cool purple eyes were demanding, and he looked absolutely certain of himself. According to the report they gave. Ino continued, feeling the horror in her own voice. Toru tried to fight the nightmare possession, and the last jutsu. He really wished to live. They removed his eye and he managed to fight back, even then. Then they tried to hang him, and we know how that ended. The silence in the room was thick. Are they in the village, right now? Sakura asked, cutting her off. Yes. Ino confirmed. They are. Will you prevent me from going? Sakura continued. They are from your clan, still. No. No, I won't. Ino said, her eyes dark. Go ahead. Thank you. Sakura said, standing up. I'll go entirely alone this time, Hanabi. Now is probably the last time to get into Konoha. Once they realize Danzo is gone, they will increase security. Especially once they figure out how I got there in the first place. This would likely be the last time they could make use of the mark in Naruto's basement. Had Danzo realized the place wasn't as untouched as he had believed, he would probably have lived. Well, Naruto had made sure that it would look the exact same as before, once he had gone to look for Ino, last time. Ino had not planned on seeing her mother anytime soon, but the possibility still seemed to become a little more remote. There was one more thing to say. So. I suspect Danzo might have been fooled by one particular guy. He definitely got some incomplete intel from him, at least. And that was on purpose, I think. Who are we talking about? Karen asked. Does the name Yakushi Kabuto ring any bells to anyone? Ino asked, frowning. Because it didn't to her. But they would find him. Tonight. Chapter 107, Night of the Long Knives. Apparently, as Haruno Sakura realized, you didn't feel any different after murdering a cage. Oh, sure, there was a vague sense of dread at the back of her mind, telling her that things could go very wrong, very fast with the whole situation. But she was not feeling much in regard to Danzo being dead. She just felt the same as she had earlier, when she had been in the village. Which meant she was terrified. She knew she needed to hurry up, so that she could leave the village as soon as possible. But of course, she couldn't do that. Sakura had to find out where the 3 targets were, before that. Yamanaka Kazuhiro. Yamanaka Fu. Yakushi Kabuto. Patience had worked to get Danzo alone, after all. And she likely had a few more hours before the route agents realized that Danzo had not gone off with his oldest friend. No, probably less. Danzo was supposed to be paranoid. He might have some contingencies in place. Better to hurry, then. Well, if he frequently did things as baffling as keeping a branch house Hyuga around as a way to check if people truly were who they seemed, then maybe he wasn't half as shrewd as he thought he was. Hanabi had told her a lot about the best ways to avoid getting caught by a Hyuga. The Byakugan could see through transformations, of course, but only if they paid close attention to a specific person. And masking her chakra was something Sakura did most of the time, anyway. But she had done so with much more care, tonight. Not that it had really been needed. The man in Danzo's service, Hyaga Shin, had been disgustingly easy to convince to leave Konoha. To think she had believed she would need to somehow get the drop on him. It made Sakura wonder how many of the Hyaga in service were coerced into it, under the penalty of death. They'd have to do something about this, too. And as for the other guards, well, she just warped them away once she was sure no one was looking. The Hyaga had been very helpful on that front. She walked through Konoha's streets at night, her chakra mostly hidden from sight. Sakura felt something prodding at her mind. She opened the bond. Stay in touch with us, so we know what's happening at least. We'll be staying around the portal, so that when you send them in, or in case you need to escape urgently, but let's hope it doesn't come to it, we can take care of them. Like before. Ino said. Sakura sent her a mental picture of rolling her eyes. Do you expect me to forget the plan on my way there? Sakura deadpanned. Hopefully, there are no Hyaga keeping watch this time. Finding a reason to get close to one to warp them away might be hard. Sakura continued. A big part of why she could maybe manage was that her face was still not too familiar to most Konoha ninja. For now. She doubted this would still be true by the time she was done, tonight. Night had fallen, now. Sakura was unprepared for how bright Konoha would be on a summer night. It had been long. She wouldn't say too long, because she hadn't really missed the place. She did wonder how her parents were, and she did feel the traitorous impulse to pay them a visit. But she also knew how stupidly risky this would be, so she put it aside. Konoha hadn't changed much, overall. Sakura continued to walk forward, trying to swallow her discomfort. Ino repeated the address of the place she was supposed to go to, first ripped straight from Danzo's mind. This would be the easiest one of the three, for sure. Sakura had thought most route operatives lived in one place, but this turned out to be untrue for both of the Yamanaka men she was to find. 119 Ashimako, Kamzakiko Ward, Ino repeated. Got it. Like most ninja villages, even during wartime, or maybe even more during wartime, despite the additional number of shinobi patrolling the streets, Konoha relied too much on their barriers. It was no wonder, because the number of chakra sensors required to keep track of every single shinobi in town would be colossal. Which meant that Sakura, with an impeccable transformation technique, a little added help from Ino's skill with disguises, and her cloak of shifting, was basically roaming free through the village. And if anyone came too close to figuring out the truth, she would slip in a back alley, open a portal, and either slip away, or push the person in it. That was the plan, at least. So far, it had worked pretty well. Her feet carried her to the place. She breathed in, out. She was water. The tension began to retreat, and so did her anxiety. It seemed like a pretty, normal apartment building. Sakura guessed there were no alarm seals anywhere close. Well, even if there were, it would be way riskier to climb up to his third-floor window. She made sure that nobody was around, and weaved 3 hand seals. A thin tendril of water shaped itself around her finger. It snaked under the door, and she fumbled a bit, trying to figure out what kind of lock she was dealing with. A basic one, apparently. The door opened, and Sakura slipped in. Instead of taking the wooden stairs that would undoubtedly creak under her weight, she jumped against the wall and slowly started to walk up silently. She could have used water to dampen her footsteps, but it was harder not to leave tracks, and it just took much more focus, too. Nobody was around at this hour, and she went up the staircase smoothly. She was on the 3rd floor, now. Sakura walked upside down, having a bit of trouble reading the nameplates. Nakama Yumi, Okura Kiku, Arima Hideaki, and Yamanaka Kazuhiro. All right, she had it. Without moving from her spot on the ceiling, the blood rush was definitely starting to become unpleasant, though Sakura sent a water probe above the door. A trickier lock right here. She focused, and wrapped a second layer of water around the lock itself, in order to dampen the noise. Any shinobi was likely to wake up, if he heard the rattle of it, otherwise. Click. Now she moved the layer of water to cover the door's hinges. She crawled down the wall on all fours, like the world's strangest spider, and then closed it behind her. She crawled in. So, this was where one of the guys responsible for Toru lived? It seemed like the guy had a pretty messy life, if the trash and litter that were found everywhere through his apartment were any sign. She continued to walk on the ceiling. And then she froze. The man was wide awake. He was sitting at his kitchen table, reading through a scroll. Sakura had to muffle a noise she made in surprise. It still escaped her, though. Yamanaka Kazuhiro turned to her, his eyes opening wide in alarm. Sakura jumped before he could finish his series of hand seals. She kicked him in his Adam's apple, and he let out a choked sound. Sakura tapped the floor, and the man fell into the gateway. Got the first one. She almost screamed through the link. She waited a bit. Warn us a bit earlier, next time please. Naruto said dryly. We were about as surprised as he was. Yeah, sorry. She cut the communication again. Sakura breathed out. That was one. 2 more to go. Now. Haruno Sakura pondered upon the following philosophical question. How the fuck am I supposed to sneak in a compound full of mind readers? You can't. Ino said. There's no real secrets in the Yamanaka clan compound. Everybody knows what everybody thinks. And most are good chakra sensors. Some of them, even when they don't extend their chakra. I wasn't asking this to you, in particular. Sakura laughed. But that doesn't exactly help me, here. I know. Ino smiled. But I know how to get him out, instead. I'm all ears. Hide away first. We'll send you the other one's mask. I'm still in the apartment. Here should be fine. Okay, then. Take the mask. Copy his clothes. I know how Danzo sends orders, now, and his codes. Here's what you're going to do. Don't meet their eyes. At any costs. Ino had said. So that's what Sakura did, when she arrived at the Yamanaka clan compound's gate. She changed her voice with a quick application of chakra. Low and rough, one of the few she felt confident using. Orders from the Hokage. She grunted, handing a scroll to one of the men guarding the entrance. Kazuhiro's mask hid her face away. For whom? That's not for you to busy yourself with. Sakura answered. I'm not going to give this to anyone until you tell who it is for, exactly. Give it to Fu and stop asking questions. She growled. This mask. Kazuhiro. The other guard asked. Sakura panicked. She still went on. I have no time for this. Danzo-sama awaits him. Sakura ignored the man's grumblings about what a rude asshole Danzo's training had made him. She left, feeling her heart thundering in her chest. Yamanksa-fu was to meet her in a small clearing. Hiding from him would be difficult, even with a disguise, according to Ino, so she didn't bother with one, past the little adjustments she had made on her face. Anything else, and the man was good enough to tell. And going as a fellow route would never work, because Sakura had no experience with them, at all. Are you the one Danzo-sama instructed me to meet, then? The man asked as he came closer. Yes. Sakura nodded. You feel familiar? He said, and Sakura's heart dropped. I'm going to send him through, right now. She warned the others. I don't think we have met before. Sakura shrugged, coming closer. Stay where you are. He said. Danzo-sama's orders or not, you are an unknown, right now. I don't even know if you are who you say you are. Fair enough. Sakura shrugged. I could be dash. She attacked. Sakura's water whip caught the man's ankle and she pulled. Hard. Fu was sent tumbling to the floor, and Sakura stomped on his balls, with violence. A grimace of pain spread over his face, and Sakura used this moment to send him away. She took a few seconds to breathe. Why is he puking? Ino asked. He lost our fight. Badly. Oh. And here I thought he saw your face. Hilarious. Any information about the Yakushi guy? She asked. Ino and Karen are working on both of the guys. We're not in the same room, either. Naruto said. I'll take over, for now. They'll tell us if there's anything. Alright. Where to go? The hospital, apparently. That's where he works. Or pretends to work, if Ino's right about this. Ino can be right, on occasion. He laughed. Well, she thinks he's a spy. Well, a triple agent. Posing as Danzo's spy, by posing as a medic nin. She's not sure for whom he really is spying, though. Oh. That's pretty bad. It is. So, you mean I should go to the hospital, right now? Yeah. He often works late nights, according to Ino. Naruto shrugged. Very well. Thank you. I'm heading there. I have another question for you, though. Yeah. It's about the fridge, down in Orochimaru's tower. Yeah? Sakura asked, hesitantly. Is there something missing? Yeah, all of my food. He retorted. Damn, did someone take it? You did. It wasn't me. Sakura protested. Who else? Nobody else even wants to touch Anko dumplings. Well. It must have been somebody else. Anko, maybe. That's the best excuse you could find. Naruto asked, dryly. Sakura. His voice grumbled. I was hungry, okay? Give me a break. It's just dumplings anyway. I really have to go, so keep the link up, though. He growled. Sakura. We might not come back here again, right? True. There's something you might want to do before leaving, then. How important? You tell me. It's just 2 messages to pass along, if you're willing. I have them ready already, you'll just have to pull them out of the spirit room if you're willing. To give to whom? He told her. Are you sure about this? Don't you want to? Of course I do, Bulletin. Then it's settled. Thanks. Getting inside the hospital was easier than Sakura thought it would be. She silently walked through the place, assuming the disguise of a nurse. It's 1 floor above you. Naruto guided her. Sakura followed his directions. 1 room was noisy. Then suddenly, no more sound came from there anymore. Sakura continued to walk. Okay, stop right here. Naruto called. His office should be on this floor. Anyone in? Yeah, the light is on. Sakura replied. She had come here silently, whoever was in seemed to have heard her coming, from the sudden silence. And there is someone in, right now. I'm still going. This might be our best opportunity. If he finds out about Danzo, he'll probably escape the village, to whoever it is he is working for. Sakura. It sounds pretty dangerous. We don't know what he is capable of. I have to. We won't be able to come back to Konoha so easily afterwards. There was a long pause. All right. Be careful. I'll be waiting to subdue him. Naruto answered. I know you are. Sakura grinned. She cleared her throat, before knocking at the door. 3 short raps, full of confidence she didn't feel. Dr. Yakushi? It's Tachibana. Yoko. A random name she had stolen on the way here. The silence that stretched was long, and heavy too. Come in. A deep voice said. Sakura put a portal down against the wall. Then she opened the link fully, so that in case the man managed to escape, the others, well, Naruto, right now might be able to get a good read on his face. I'm going in, then. Sakura said with some trepidation. Naruto didn't answer. She would need her focus. She opened the door. Hello. She called, grinning. I'm sorry to be this late dash. Sakura froze. A scarred man with jet black hair and blood-red eyes was whirling away, carrying another. He laughed. There were pieces of a broken mask on the floor. And there is our last actress. Our little Hokage killer. Why don't you ask her, Bakushi? Naruto was screaming through the link. Away, get away from them. Another man was left in the room, his expression thunderous. The only thing Sakura saw was red. I have had enough lies. The last man breathed out, his Sharingan whirring, peering into Sakura's eye. With whom did you kill Shimura Danzo? That's what Naruto saw through the link, as well. His blood froze. But his body didn't. The second he felt Sakura's world be consumed by an all-powering eye, he was flying toward the gateway. Karen and Ino were on another floor entirely, working on the root agents, and he tried to warn them of where he was going. It was probably more confusing than anything, because right now, his entire world was awash in fear. Uzumaki Naruto appeared in Konoha's hospital. As well as Uzumaki Naruto. The one you knew as Sarutobi. Sakura's voice droned on, devoid of any emotion. His cloak of lightning was already layering his body, and the very moment he appeared there, he kicked at the wall, destroying it entirely. And dispelling the portal, as well. Naruto took in the entirety of the room with a lightning-quick chakra scan. A man he knew very well was standing, his eyes locked into Sakura's, whose own looked vacant. Sakura's chakra was twisted. And outside the windows, Naruto felt another chakra signature arriving toward them, at his full speed. The whole process took less than a second. Considering who was in front of him, and Naruto made sure not to meet his eyes, it was already too much time. Hatake Kakashi broke eye contact with Sakura, who stood on shaky feet. Naruto felt the man's eyes on him, full of disbelief, horror, shame, agony, hopelessness, disillusion, guilt, despair. A broken man. Naruto. Sakura rasped out. He snapped to attention. He knows. Naruto felt his heart stop for a second, and he was afraid he would be rooted to the spot. But he wasn't. He took in Sakura's physical and mental state, and decided that they would need to leave right now. No matter what this meant for the future. And the trouble it would bring. Open a portal. We're leaving. Now. She didn't have the strength to contest it. Two things happened, and Naruto saw it happen in slow motion. Sakura set up a new gateway immediately and started fading through it. Hatake Kakashi's sword flashed, leaving a white trail in the air. The steel bit Sakura's throat, and her control over her chakra went haywire. She barely managed to keep the portal from slamming shut before she herself went through it. It disappeared. Naruto was left alone. Sakura had to be alive. She had to. If he lost anyone else, right now. Something is raging through Naruto. He can't say what it is. He can't bring himself to care. Naruto roars through the bond. Don't come heal her. His thought rings, echoes through his bond with Karen and Ino, aimlessly. Yujito and Sakura herself probably feel it, as well. He shuts the link, putting his entire focus on the coming fight. Kakashi spoke, his eyes filled with raw fury. I came here to unmask a spy. He spat. And what do I find instead? The person who gave me his gift, years ago, is the one behind half the mess we are in. Naruto didn't know who he was talking about. He didn't care. And now? Kakashi continued, his knuckles turning white around his sword. I face the one behind the other half. One of my two surviving students has killed the Hokage. Naruto didn't deny it. Naruto spat. Danzo is the one who killed Toru. Kakashi didn't react. Either he didn't believe him, or he knew already and found it less important than the fact they had gone after Konoha itself, several times now. And there were a fair amount of things that the man could blame him for. Not that Naruto cared about the man's opinion much right now. His blade had ripped through Sakura's throat and was still dripping with her blood right now. What do they call you now? Indra. Kakashi spat. No. Naruto tried to keep from showing anger. He was not that man. The tension in the room still rose by a notch. I go by my given name. Uzumaki Naruto. As you wish, then. Naruto. It's my fault we've come this far anyway. Kakashi said. Both you and him. You are my mistakes. Lightning crackled to life around him. Naruto was not entirely sure who the hell he was talking about. Likely the man behind the mask, then. The one he knew was not Madara. Tonight, I'm correcting one of them. Kakashi finished. I think. Naruto began. That you will soon find that the only mistake you can still correct tonight is staying here. Lightning crackled to life around him. It was time to face one of Konoha's most prolific killers. Naruto only considered himself a beginner in the art. Ah! And there came one more of them. Uchiha Shisui appeared, crashing through the window. His anger mirrored Kakashi's. And it mirrored Naruto's. Chapter 108, The Furthest Place from Understanding. In a moment suspended in time, Naruto understood Shisui's heart. If Hatake Kakashi's fury was a cold thing, directed at himself as much as it was to the outside world, Uchiha Shisui's rage was another thing entirely. It was a burning hot rage, enough to turn anything on its path to ash. There was no fear, no patience in him. No worries about the future and no concern for the path he was taking. Here was a man here for a precise task, get his answers, kill Uzumaki Naruto. Not necessarily in this order. Whether he was directly responsible for Toru's death or not. To Shisui, blinded by grief, joining UMI had led to Toru's death. It was enough. Then he would see about the rest, people like Danzo, whom he suspected. That Naruto was a wanted criminal was something that seemed to come as an afterthought. Uzumaki. Naruto could more or less figure out what was going through Shisui's mind, just from the pool of raging emotions he was the source of. You caused his death. Shisui's soul seemed to say. And Naruto couldn't find it in him to disagree. For this, you will answer. I'd like to see you try. Naruto thought. He is Sarutobi Naruto. Kakashi said quietly. Your brother's former teammate. And Uchiha Obito is the masked man. The Uchiha took it in stride. That would explain a few things. Shisui grunted. Doesn't change much, though. I will bind him, get my answers and then. Shisui didn't waste any time. Naruto felt his chakra build up in his eyes. The long-distance Kota Amatsukami. One illusion he knew he would have trouble dispelling. If he could at all. He made an immediate decision and used a lightning flash to force them to blink. He started channeling chakra to warp away at the same time he was running. Naruto broke Shisui's line of sight, dashing through the shattered wall and disappearing in the hospital's corridor. Kakashi was upon him immediately, a white flash of murdering motion. He couldn't focus on the leap, so he let that go. Naruto closed his eyes entirely, relying on his other senses. A sword appeared in his hand, steel clanging as he parried Kakashi's strike. Shisui was behind him, the same chakra building up in his eyes again. With a single motion of his left hand in a burst of focused lightning chakra, Naruto created a clone, and summoned a sword in midair for his doppelganger. It was not a shadow clone, and not a lightning clone either. Rather, it was a shadow clone infused with lightning. One only able to use elemental techniques of its element, one that would revert to lightning once struck. Shisui cancelled his genjutsu. The clone drew the sword back, and lightning shaped itself around it. Lightning style, abrupt fang. It thrust its sword forward in a two-handed stabbing motion, and its chakra extended, shaping itself into a beast's jaws, rushing toward Shisui through the narrow hallway. The real Naruto and Kakashi crossed swords again. His confidence was rapidly diminishing, and soon, he was strictly on the defensive. Fighting for his life. They said they were aiming at capturing him, yet they were taking no chances. Every blow each of them struck was meant to be a fatal one. Straightforward attacks with a single purpose behind it, kill the other. The two of them were equally fast, it seemed. Naruto's more power-based cloak matched Kakashi's more efficiency-based one. And Kakashi's swordsmanship was still slightly better. It was no wonder, as the man had had more time to practice. On top of this, they were fighting in a hospital. All of them kept their attack's potency down, focusing on fast, lethal strikes. Behind him, Shisui dodged under the lightning dragon, which flickered into non-existence again, rather than damage the building and endanger people. Kakashi and Naruto were extremely fast. So how could Shisui manage to keep up? No, it was more than keeping up, he was as swift as they were without even using lightning release. Shisui's Tonto strike bit the clone in the neck. Like Kakashi's had bitten Sakura's throat. Sakura's throat, ripped open, her blood, spilling. The clone dispelled in a flash of blinding light, forcing Shisui to take a step away, until his vision returned. Kakashi closed his Sharingan eye for a second, too, Naruto assumed. But he always fought with one eye closed, anyway. And that's what he did then, relying on his regular one. It did nothing to dampen his prowess in battle, as scary as the thought was. Unlike Shisui, Toru, and most Uchiha, Naruto assumed Kakashi spent about half his time fighting without his Sharingan. Kakashi's hands blurred, and a column of earth spikes rose through the corridor. At the same time, blades made out of water slashed at him, coming down from the ceiling. Naruto weaved through them in a show of agility that belied his size. Kakashi's other hand, the one wrapped around his sword, released a beam of cutting electricity that Naruto jumped over. Shisui shot small, focused fireballs at his back, making Naruto jump again, when he was already midair. He did so by pushing himself into a backflip with a burst of air. Kakashi caught Shisui's fireballs with his left hand, added wind to them, and threw them again. Naruto gathered chakra to his hand and dispelled them by sealing them away, right into the window, with a single touch. Kakashi recognized the technique and something like revolt entered his eyes. He knew where it came from, then. Shisui just grunted, realizing fire would be a bad idea, here, anyway. Cloaked in his ever-shifting blue cloak of thunder, Kakashi looked like a warrior god again. Just like he did, years ago, when Naruto had first met him. The white chakra saber flew through the air with precision, guided by a lean arm, strong by virtue of its cord muscle. Naruto could almost feel the same terrified awe, admiration. He pushed it aside. What he couldn't push aside was his desire to win. To overcome someone this strong. Defeating an opponent like him meant everything to him, right now. His pride was burning, or maybe it was his soul. And Uchiha Shisui would have to wait for his turn. Toru had taught him how to layer techniques before. And he had practiced with him until he got it down. Hopefully, the lesson stuck, because he would likely only get one chance at this. Naruto started focusing. He retreated into his mind, dodging under a flurry of sword strikes. It felt as though he were about to do the impossible. Maybe he was, because this sort of thing, he would not consider attempting in normal circumstances. And then he split his attention in two. It felt like looking left and right at the same time, except he could not use a shadow clone, this time. How did Kurane manage to do this? According to Toru, she could do this 2 more times. Naruto triggered the seal in which he had sealed the flames away, kicking them around him in a circle. Both Shisui and Kakashi dodged, but it bought him something more precious. Time. Half of Naruto's awareness was dedicated to one specific task, and he barely managed to crouch under Shisui's Tonto strike. Naruto didn't let his focus waver. Rising Dragon. Naruto spun in an anti-clockwise kick, thunder buzzing around him. Shisui's eyes were upon him again. Naruto created a shadow clone, and pushed off from it, shattering the ceiling in a mighty kick. The clone slammed down, summoning a shower of wind blades as he did. Then he whirled around with a kick. Whirlwind snap. Kakashi's hands moved again, too fast for Naruto to read the seals he was preparing. Water style, severing wave. Naruto threw himself aside, and the high-pressured water jet that Kakashi had just created, the one that cut right through stone like butter, didn't manage to cut his leg off. Naruto didn't let his focus waver. Both Kakashi and Shisui had expected him to run off through the opening to the upper floor. So Naruto didn't. His hand moved clockwise, and he summoned 4 swords. He threw one at Shisui, and one at Kakashi. For the third one, he gathered his chakra. With a grunt of exertion, he threw it upward, enhanced by lightning. It cut its way through the building, aiming for the sky. Revolving thunder, grounding. Instead of following to the upper floors, Naruto pulled himself to the sword embedded next to Shisui. Shisui parried Naruto's heavy sword strike with a grunt. Physically, he didn't have the Uzumaki's constitution. He retaliated with a swift kick to Naruto's face. Naruto stepped back, ignoring the pain in his cheekbone, shaping his fingers in a one-handed seal around his weapon. A lightning shadow clone appeared in front of him, and he whirled around to deflect Kakashi's strike into the wall. They were too strong for him, together. But Naruto had known this since the very beginning. Naruto didn't let his focus waver. Shisui made short work of the clone, of course, and this time he didn't let himself get blinded. The clone exploded in a shower of lightning. Naruto pulled at it, sending a show of sparks around them. Kakashi's blade came at him, striking from above, cold fury moving him like the lightning god's hammer. Shisui's blade was set aflame, coming from down with such swiftness and precision that Naruto could understand why Toru had always felt as though he couldn't measure up to him. Swallow Fury. The Uchiha's blade made a chain of several wide slashes, and he moved forward with every strike, flames trailing him. They had fought together before, this much was obvious. The Hatake moved in between them, sword flashing white, in the Leaf's prized style. Setting sun, rising moon. Naruto wove through the blades, wind, and instinct guiding his every step. Kakashi was a hound of thunder, Shisui was a ghost of flame. Naruto had to anticipate both trajectories. If he missed, there was no doubt that the fight was as good as over. Neither of them was aiming to disable, or even to maim. Cold fury, burning rage. The reason behind why they swung their swords might have been different in its expression, but the end result would be the same. Naruto strained. Naruto felt his mind on the edge of tearing, the effort of having his focus split in between two very different tasks, while trying to keep up with two of Konoha's monsters was too much. But he wouldn't let his focus waver. Their swords flew at the same time. For a moment, he managed to let his heightened emotions flow away, dissociating them from the fires of battle. Naruto let go of himself, and the clarity that came was startling. There was the sound of steel finding steel. He hadn't missed, and their weapons had made contact with his own. Naruto called to the sword high up in the sky. The one he had sent with only one objective. Gathering the storm. Revolving thunder, heavenly light. Kakashi felt something change, but he was magnetized to Naruto's weapon already. The sparks from before. A beam of focused lightning struck down from the heavens with a roar, aimed at Naruto's twin blades. The floor ruptured under them, and it was all Naruto could do to keep its power focused on the three of them, rather than the building. The pain that Naruto felt was indescribable. He screamed, just as he heard both Kakashi and Shisui scream. But he wouldn't let his focus waver. Even with his eyes closed, he could see it. White flashes, stars, colors that made no sense. Concentric wavelengths that no human was supposed to be seeing in the first place. There was only pain on his mind, and his destination. Something green shaped itself into existence around Shisui, and Naruto knew, from memories that were not his, that it would shield him from the worst of it. But, this changed nothing. There's only one way out. Naruto thought, through the maddening haze of agony. Through. Naruto burst into motion, detaching himself from Shisui. His chakra and Kakashi's were still wrestled together, and he couldn't tell which one of them was responsible for this tug of war in the first place. Him. Kakashi, or both. His focus hadn't wavered. Kakashi and he disappeared in a crack of thunder. Behind them, Uchiha Shisui, clad in Susanoo green, howled his rage. Uzumaki Naruto and Hatake Kakashi fell in the snow in a tumble. They were back on the mountaintop where Danzo had been killed. They pushed off each other and stood up once more. Snow was still falling around them, blanketing the earth. They were both breathing hard, not from exhaustion, but from the sheer pain of becoming lightning rods. Kakashi saw the still flashing mark and he understood right away. His Sharingan morphed into a shape Naruto had never seen before, and he moved away from Kakashi's line of sight. But the man had not been aiming at him. There was a whirring sound, and the mark disappeared, along some of the earth. Hiration? No. That's something else. But no matter what it is. You won't call your friends here. Kakashi said, to his surprise. You need some time to put down a mark, as well, don't you? Naruto said nothing. I won't give you any time to do that, then. Kakashi finished. I wasn't planning on doing that in the first place. Naruto admitted. Kakashi's eyes were upon him, and Naruto knew exactly how dangerous this was, now. No. Naruto shook his head. It might be foolish. No. It is foolish. But when I defeat you. I want this to be on my terms. And he closed down on the bond even tighter. He could not afford any distractions, for this. Kakashi's left hand released shuriken, all of them linked together by wire. Naruto ducked under, blasting the ones hidden in their shadows away, rather than face the exploding tags wrapped around them. Earth release, underground gate. The ground burst open around Naruto entirely, but he dashed away with a push of wind. Kakashi, who had been ready to summon his dogs, realized it would be a waste. Just like most conventional jutsu would be. When you defeat me? Kakashi chuckled, low and dangerous. Naruto knew how bad of an idea it was, facing a shinobi like Hatake Kakashi. And how truly bad it was, to do so alone. Instead of fear, what he felt was pure eagerness. Yes. Naruto nodded, slipping back into his fighting stance. By overcoming you, I can overcome any foe. His blood was singing. Kakashi let out a rumbling sound, that was probably supposed to be a chuckle. Fine by me. This will be our last training session, then. Sensei. Bring it on, then. Come at me with the intent to kill. Because I will. Kakashi finished. Does it ever become easier to deal with? The guilt, I mean. Toru asked him. Not really. Ah. Toru sighed. You know. Sometimes, I wonder what he would think. It was only the two of them, most of the time. Sasuke was off wandering the world with Jiraiya-sama, and Naruto had been dead for a while. What about? Kakashi asked. Toru's brow furrowed in thought. I don't know. Everything. The looming war, the hardships of shinobi life, then. Kakashi shrugged. I think Naruto would mostly complain, frankly. About everything. Toru chuckled. Yeah. He probably would. But he'd still be there, fighting with us, at least. Maybe he'd be a smart ass about it, too. He could really be, sometimes. Oftentimes. Kakashi smiled. He had failed him. Why did you pick me for the team, Kakashi-sensei? Sarutobi Naruto asked, looking at him dubiously. Kakashi blinked. Why would I not? Truth was, by now, Naruto reminded him of himself a bit less abrasive than he had been at his age, but still. There are plenty of other genin who would love to study under you. Naruto retorted. Oh. Kakashi smiled. And you don't. It's not that. Naruto laughed. He then turned serious. But many of them are more suitable for our line of work. He said with some distaste. Because of your aversion to killing. Also this, yes. But I don't think I have what it takes to be a shinobi. Not a good one, at least. I still think of just leaving, most days. I think I understand that. Kakashi said. You do? Naruto asked. Of course. Kakashi laughed. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't have some sort of doubt about the lives we lead. Isn't there another way? Maybe. Maybe not. Kakashi shrugged. I don't think it is possible to change the entire world. Not anymore. That's sad. I guess so. Kakashi admitted. I prefer to focus on what I can do. What is it? Kakashi smiled at him. Protect the people I hold dear, and take care of Konoha's enemies, so that we live to see another day. I see. Naruto said, not looking entirely satisfied by the answer. You're still young, Naruto. Kakashi ruffled his hair. He had no doubt that he would become a strong shinobi, someday, despite his reservations. And this is just my answer. You will be able to find your own, someday. I guess so. Naruto muttered. Hey, son. Kakashi muttered. Minato-sensei and Kushina were about to become parents. The idea was as foreign as it was scary. He never voiced it out loud, but he had come to see both of them as something between siblings and parents. But, a baby? Where did Kakashi fit in this, exactly? He pushed the feelings away. Congratulations were in order, not jealousy. The baby would grow up in a loving home, the son of the Hokage and his terrifying, strong, kind wife. Yes. Minato-sensei grinned. Would you do us the honor of keeping watch over Kushina during her pregnancy? Of course. Kakashi accepted right away. This was the least he could do for them. He could watch from the shadows, and make sure everything went perfectly well. It will be good preparation for the future. Minato-sensei continued, ruffling his hair. You're going to be a big brother, after all, Kakashi. Hatake Kakashi was a jonin, starting today. And now, he understood what being a shinobi meant. Being willing to put your life, your feelings aside, in order to protect the whole. One life could not matter more than 1,000. No matter who it was. No matter what stupid Obito kept on saying. No matter that his father, who had been too weak to do what was needed, wouldn't be here to witness his son's triumphs. He had Minato-sensei, anyway. Hatake Kakashi was a jonin, now. And he would defend Konoha at all costs. Unseen, a tear trickled down Hatake Kakashi's face. He had tried doing things Obito's way. It had brought him nothing but pain. Orders were easier to follow. Besides, Obito was nothing more than a traitor. The man who had killed Minato-sensei and Kushina. Then again, Obito had said he had overheard him talking to his grave. Something like this was the reason Minato-sensei died? This was on him, too, then. One more mistake. He had made so many. Including Naruto. Another traitor. One who had killed the Hokage during wartime, along with more than a dozen Konoha ninja, and had no plans of stopping. Anyone he deemed guilty, he would kill. And he had made this obvious. Before, he would have tried to find another way. Now, broken, with nothing left to live for but the objectives. He was nothing at all. It wouldn't stop him from doing what was needed. Not now, not anymore. Chapter 109, Faded Lightning. Kakashi's swordsmanship was incredible. There was no other word for it. He handled his weapon like an extension of his body, each movement a strike meant to debilitate or kill. It was a dance of death, each step bringing them closer to the precipice. Each step made Naruto feel stronger in his own ability. That was how he learned best, by seeing, understanding, improving. So Naruto moved, dodged, parried, deflected, and struck back. It was like fighting himself, in a way, as their fighting styles, although different by now, had started on a similar foundation. He had been Kakashi's student, after all, after having trained under the third, and before Orochimaru. The cloak of lightning allowed both of them to push beyond their limits. Their increased speed was only part of it. The perception it gave them both was its real boon. Naruto's consumed more chakra, but allowed his already greater strength to soar even higher. Kakashi's was more of a subtle thing, flickering on and off, depending on the situation, something that was only possible due to his Sharingan. They met again with a thunderous clash. Hatake Kakashi, master of 1,000 jutsu, didn't have enough time to use even one. Their swords flashed, striking mighty blows that would have shattered any man. Stone cracked and splintered, turning to nothing more than broken rock. The uneven terrain did nothing to slow them down, and it felt as though they were flying. Their chakra were wild, unrestrained, and bright. What felt like hundreds of strikes were exchanged, none of them bringing either of them any closer to winning. Twin swords against one. The fact that the white chakra saber wasn't showing any signs of breaking, even now, was testament to the quality of its build. The fact that Naruto could fight on even grounds with a man that was undoubtedly one of the strongest in the entire world was testament to his will and strength. Steel hit steel. Sparks flew. Their forearms were tight from fatigue, their fingers bruised. Their thighs, screaming. There. An opening. With a roar, Naruto pushed his advantage, his twin swords pressing down on Kakashi, who barely managed to keep his own up against them. His hands shook from the exertion. One of the swords struck true, biting through Kakashi's torso in a downward strike. Naruto followed through, and his kick sent the man flying. He discarded one of his swords, and summoned his bow. The other sword turned into an arrow. Lightning and wind pooled through him, gathering in both arrow and bow. Naruto anticipated Kakashi's trajectory, and let loose the blinding streak of light. It inched forward inexorably, and its deadly elements would go through even Kakashi's cloak. Except it didn't. Naruto saw something purple flash in the background. The next instant, a sword strike that had been meant to take off his neck was barely deflected downward. It cut through his own torso diagonally, instead. Kakashi's next strike took him in the gut. The following one opened a bloody gash along his arm's length. Kakashi was upon him again, like an unrelenting devil, his body covered in a purple aura. Naruto managed to tumble away from him. He started to heal himself, but Kakashi was upon him again. "What is this?" Naruto asked him. "A more advanced form of lightning mastery? Or?" Kakashi didn't answer, and with a blindingly fast pivot, his sword cut through Naruto's torso again, leaving a cross-marked, bleeding wound. He struck back with a wind blade that missed the man entirely. Naruto's chakra senses were upon him. At the same time, he started channeling chakra, more and more of it. Kakashi blurred into movement again, and Naruto summoned a wind clone into his path. The blades it out once it dispelled did nothing to slow him down, and suddenly, Naruto found a blade buried into his gut. Naruto grabbed a hold of it with his hand. The chakra around Kakashi dispelled. He looked exhausted. Both physically, and mentally, too. Up close, Kakashi confirmed what Naruto had been thinking. "I wish it didn't come to this, Naruto," Kakashi said, recovering his breath. Naruto let out a bloody chuckle. "You sure have a strange way of showing it. But a wound like this won't kill me." "I know," Kakashi said, with a forlorn look upon his face. "But this will. It was the only way I could keep you locked in place." Purple lightning buzzed through Kakashi's sword, holding Naruto in place. The Sharingan swirled into something else, and suddenly there was a whirring sound. "Kamui!" he called, aiming at Naruto's head. "Too slow." Naruto grinned, pulling the chakra he had gathered into his sword. It exploded in a raging dome of wind and lightning that cut deep into both of their bodies, before sending them hurtling through the snow. Now, Naruto accelerated his healing process, starting with his stiff hand. Kakashi stood up shakily, and started to use fire to cauterize his wounds. Naruto let him do so. "That's what I thought," Naruto began. Kakashi stared at him, silently. "Your jutsu. Your purple lightning." Naruto smiled. "No wonder it feels so familiar." He paused. "Yours is lightning and yin, isn't it? With a touch of yang, too. How do you know this?" Kakashi asked, gritting his teeth. "I have learned to sense chakra." Naruto shrugged, the motion pulling at his healing wounds. He winced. "But relying so much on yin leaves you vulnerable, doesn't it?" He had a pet theory, one that he could not really prove. That Indra's line usually tended to rely on yin energy. Which left him, as an Uzumaki, in a weird spot. His soul wanted to lean towards yin. But his body was almost purely geared for yang. Too much yin compared to yang apparently could lead to more mental vulnerability, even to insanity. What did too much yang bring? And where did he stand? What would you know about it? Kakashi asked, his eyes locked into his. But he made no move to use his Sharingan, as they had silently, mutually agreed to take the time to heal their wounds. "What do you think?" Naruto grinned. "I think that's a lot of bravado, personally," Kakashi said dryly. "It's not." Naruto shook his head. "The yin-yang ratio is not the same at all, and I have to use wind as well, but I'm saying that I can do the same damn thing." Kakashi just stared at him, his eyes hard. "But this doesn't matter. There's something I've been meaning to ask." Naruto continued. "Ask ahead," Kakashi said dryly. "You're wasting your talents." "What? Why serve a village with people like Danzo?" Naruto said, in a mockery of their first meeting. "You've got potential. Why not join us?" A single chuckle escaped Kakashi, despite himself. "You're still a smart ass, aren't you?" "I guess so. For my comrades. To protect the leaf itself." Why Konoha? The world dash. Kakashi scoffed. That's too naive. The words of someone who hasn't experienced enough about the nature of shinobi. It is impossible to change the entire world. Konoha is the best option. So you gave up. Don't talk to me about giving up. Kakashi retorted. It is the lesser evil, between this and the bloodbath your methods will bring. A bloodbath? Like the war that is going on because of the village system. Naruto almost laughed. Yes. A worse one. Kakashi nodded. Aiming at weakening the villages can only result in more strife. I don't think it can get worse than what we have now. I'll take my chances. Naruto said. What do you think is going to happen to Konoha, with Danzo gone? People from Konoha will die. A change in power during a war can only harm a village. How is this any different from what Konoha is doing to the land of wind and earth? As far as I'm concerned, there's no difference between the two. No more value to a life because it so happens to exist in the land of fire. And I don't think changing leaders will do more harm to the world than having people like Danzo lead. They healed the worst of their wounds in silence. Are the rumors any true? Naruto finally asked. There were more than a few floating around, in IWA newspapers, and the theory made more sense to him than what Konoha was saying about the matter. Did you kill the Kazekage? How is this any different, then? Kakashi gritted his teeth. For my village. It was Naruto's turn to scoff. What do you think I did it for? Danzo killed a citizen of my own. Naruto retorted. So we agree, then. You can't change the world without getting your hands dirty. I see it, now, just like you always tried to tell me, back then. This is the furthest answer from what I wanted you to understand. Kakashi spat. And what was your answer? To protect the people you care about. Your village. That's exactly what I'm doing. And I won't stop at this, just because of my own weakness. Funny that you'd say this, when you're about to join the list of the worst criminals in the entire shinobi world. Kakashi said. People like Uchiha Madara. Naruto stilled. I am nothing like Uchiha Madara. His tone was cold. He had seen some of the man's memories. Never. Sensitive point. He was mad. And to me, your actions are senseless. All of this killing, for something so short-sighted? For Konoha, people like Danzo. I am the Hokage's man. Kakashi echoed the statement Naruto had already heard from Shisui before. So is it just about patriotism? That's it? That's the driving cause for most of these wars? Just government propaganda? Naruto asked in disbelief. I'll do whatever is needed. That is what it's about. Just like I'm assuming here you'd do a great many things, for UMI, wouldn't you? Kakashi asked dryly. Yeah, I can't deny that. Naruto admitted. It's really not so complicated. I'm a proud Konoha ninja. And I'm willing to take steps to defend and support it. I believe in the will of fire. Not just because I was raised there, but because I believe that Konoha is the lesser evil. The quality of life I wish for the newer generations to enjoy will only be possible if the generations that came before them are willing to do the dirty work. I'm willing to do it, and I can stomach it. Does this sound stupid to you? No. Naruto shook his head lightly. It doesn't sound stupid to me at all, right now. Naruto said with a small smile. A long silence stretched. Maybe there is still a way. Kakashi offered, his eyes almost pleading for a second. There is. Naruto nodded. Join us. I won't. Kakashi shook his head. If you come with me right now, I will do everything in my power in order to ensure that justice is served. Fairly. Naruto laughed. As in a trial? Sorry, but I'm going to pass. I have other things I want to, rather than being thrown in jail for life or rather, being used as a weapon of war, since I am who I am. Then you shouldn't have killed the cage. Kakashi said slowly. Most of the other things, we could have found a way. Again. He killed Toru. Naruto spat. Some of his fury returned. To me, that's unforgivable. It is, for me too. Kakashi said, his tone hard. What? But you're willing to work for someone like this, still? Naruto asked in disbelief. I would never have forgiven Danzo. Kakashi admitted. But Toru did break one of the village's laws. Danzo applied the village's law, no matter how I feel about it. The law. Naruto started to laugh. The one that justifies slavery? And Danzo only used this as an excuse to kill him, make no mistake about it. That is just a possibility. Kakashi shook his head. What happened to your morals? Naruto asked. I haven't changed on that. Those who break the rules are scum. Naruto began. But those who abandon their friends are worse than scum. Ha! Kakashi looked as though he had been slapped. Naruto continued. How do you think Toru would have felt, seeing you justify his murder? That is not what I'm doing. Kakashi roared. His death is an unforgivable sin. One that I would gladly have killed Danzo for, myself. And if I could have saved Toru, I would have damned myself for it. Then, his voice became more subdued. But Toru is dead already, nothing will change this. And the life of one doesn't justify the death of thousands, no matter what I feel about them. That's good. Naruto said, with a flat smile. Because I'm not going to kill thousands. Just the people that are ready to do so. How is it any different? One man cannot rule the entire world by himself. I'm not going to be by myself. And one man should not follow the order in place blindly, just because there is always a risk of losing people. I thought you knew this. What happened to you? Naruto roared in return. You let your fears get the better of you. You are worse in every way than the man I knew. You're blinded by your delusions. Kakashi shook his head. And you're dangerous, when it comes to Konoha. You know too much, have gotten too strong. And your intentions, your actions. The only difference between our actions, is that I'm willing to take the hard decisions without waiting to be given the order. Without anyone telling me what to do like a good lapdog. You're just another Madara, another Obito in the making. Kakashi retorted. Obito? He had said that was the masked man. The one he had thought was Madara until a few memories had made him realize Madara was dead? Naruto saw a blurry memory. Something that didn't belong to him. An old man ordering the death of a young girl. Rin. He couldn't understand much about this. Is this about Rin? Naruto asked, aloud. His heart was confused. What was this? Rin. Kakashi growled. I don't know who told you this, there can only be one person. Obito. Don't you dare say her name. Is this what this is about? You've lost too much, and now you are willing to do anything for the village they died for? My father, my mother, this Rin. Don't you dare say their names. Kakashi roared. You understand nothing. Naruto scoffed. Maybe I don't. Draw your weapon. Sensei's son or not, I won't have any mercy for you. I won't hold back. I know. I won't either. Kakashi had recovered a lot of chakra. Purple lightning shrouded him, the power coming from him almost suffocating. Lightning, yin and some yang too, although lesser. Naruto reached deep inside himself. The storm answered when he gave in to his emotions, he had thought. But he had been wrong. It was not about emotion, it was about letting go. The reason it had never held for long before, was that emotion was the trigger, one that he had misunderstood. Naruto thought of his fear of failure, of losing everyone. The deepest fears too. That he might be in the wrong. That his actions were those of a madman, who'd only bring about a bloodbath, of a genocidal maniac in becoming. He thought of his need. And he remembered Toru. The power surged into his veins, making his body burn. His heart roared into his chest, his muscles shook, and his chakra seemed to turn to pure power. Just like before. He let out a primal scream, and 3 carvings ignited. Naruto had thought they were the source of this power. He had been wrong. It was him, all along, guiding the storm. His emotions were going haywire, the whispers of anger and wrath and fear and destruction filled his mind. He wanted to control them, to bear down on them, until they submitted. Instead, he let go. For a moment at least, he relinquished all of this. This was what he was born for. This moment, suspended in time, where nothing but your skill mattered. His soul was soaring, his heart was thrumming. He was chakra, he was strength. He was the storm. And this too, he let go. Lightning and wind, yin and yang. Was this the secret? Balance? In front of him, meters away, Kakashi looked on in disbelief. His eyes were wide, both of them. No way. He began. You were telling the truth. In the middle of the raging storm, Naruto drew in more and more of his own chakra. Power surged through him like the ocean's waves. He was alive. Naruto could feel the air, thick with their combined chakra. Above them, far up, lightning cracked through the skies, and a veritable thunderstorm raged. The snow continued to fall, still, during all this. Kakashi's hands joined together, weaving through hand seals at a speed so far above what Naruto had ever seen. Naruto did the same. It was storm, wind, and lightning combined. It had the properties of both. He would manage. Purple lightning, Raja. Storm release, faded lightning. A large hound made out of violet light formed, starting from Kakashi's hand. A cord of lightning connected to it, and the hound was upon Naruto. Naruto, who brought his left hand up, and focused the chakra through his extended middle finger. A point of light shone in front of it before disappearing. With a terrible tearing sound, a beam of violet electricity shot forward, going through the hound in a moment both shorter and longer than Naruto could ever remember experiencing. Kakashi was gone. And then suddenly, he was behind him, low, aiming to cut through his heel. But Naruto was able to follow his movements, now. He parried the blow. And then countered with a snake-style kick, straight to Kakashi's gut. The man growled and disappeared again. Naruto blurred away, too. For an instant, he knew that Kakashi lost sight of him. He couldn't react. Naruto's sword bit through his shoulder. He cauterized the wound with a curse. Kakashi's cloak disappeared for a short moment and flames exploded from behind Naruto, forcing him to dodge under. Enhanced by Kakashi's yin chakra, he knew they could hurt him badly. The cloak came back on. He struck with a downward strike, but was parried by Kakashi's sword. Naruto disappeared again, moving behind him. Kakashi parried again, and then flipped over him, weaving through hand seals again. Purple lightning, 100 blades. Tiny shards, fragments of light formed around Naruto, almost innumerable, swirling around him like a cloud of cherry tree petals, before going after him from every possible angle. Naruto weaved hand signs of his own, before slapping his hand on the floor. Storm release, cloud clearer. A dome of lightning bolts and wind blades built around him, before exploding in every direction, clearing the blades away. Kakashi was weaving through more signs. Naruto dashed, with all of his speed, and his blade almost speared through Kakashi's midsection. The man had managed to grab his blade with his hand to redirect it, though. Kakashi twisted around Naruto's blade, until it was held in place between his back and the crook of both of his elbows. He flexed and the blade shattered like glass. His retaliating strike grazed Naruto's chin. They took some distance. Kakashi was having more trouble maintaining his jutsu than Naruto did. And he had noticed it. You can't afford to stay in this form for long, Naruto said, summoning another sword to his right hand. It is the truth. I will kill you as soon as I can. I feel special. Naruto showed his teeth in a bloody grin. They stepped off the broken earth again, their swords clashing with enough strength to shatter them both. The swords held. Faster. Each step brought them to a higher level of fighting. Faster. The swords rang, sending sparks and spreading destruction around the two shinobi. Faster. Naruto's body was screaming, unused to speeds such as the ones they were reaching. Faster. His heart was beating out of his chest, the taste of blood was deep down his throat, and he knew that if he stopped for a single second, he would not get up. Faster. Both of them had blood running down their faces, and down their bodies as well, soaking their clothes crimson. Faster. How long had they been at it? 1,000 strikes, 1,000 moments. Faster. To say Kakashi was swift, that he was quick, was akin to saying that a severed arm was a mere flesh wound. It was the most exhilarating battle Naruto had fought in his life. If he were to die here, he would die happy. But he wouldn't. He had things to do, still. They slashed at each other at the same time. Both strikes landed. They mirrored each other, cutting through the other's torso diagonally. They roared, and struck again. Another slash wound on both of them. Then another. Another. Only chakra was keeping them going, at this point. They had become demons. Tomorrow didn't matter, they only lived for this moment, despite what they wanted to believe. They stepped off, coming to stand at a distance from each other. Kakashi was standing straight, which in itself was abnormal, considering the terrible wounds that covered him from head to toe. Naruto could hardly believe that the human body could endure this much. Have I done this? Naruto thought with some trepidation. He had. But he had no regrets. In front of him, Kakashi didn't either. He was standing still. For the first time Naruto could remember, he looked at peace. Naruto only realized that his mask was nowhere to be seen, and that it was the first time he ever saw his face. Neither of us has much strength left. Kakashi said. Shinobi are not meant to fight drawn-out battles. Nor lives. Naruto was faring a bit better, but not much. Let's end it, then. Kakashi-sensei. They grinned at each other, something savage, and so primal, full of spirit, that anybody who would have seen them would have fled. Kakashi weaved no signs, but all of his remaining chakra pooled in his arm. Purple lightning crackled, dancing in Kakashi's hand. This was his masterpiece, his Raikiri, refined even further. Purple lightning, lightning cutter. So you have made up your mind. Naruto said. I was afraid you'd hesitate. I won't. If I need to kill you for Konoha to live, then I will. Kakashi said simply. No matter who you are. Good. Naruto smiled. Because somehow, Naruto was hit by a wave of nostalgia, and suddenly he was a smart-ass 12 years old again, one who thought he knew everything there was to know. Don't you remember? Naruto asked. Kakashi said nothing, his eyes still fixed upon Naruto. Nothing has changed, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto chuckled. And this is still a terrible assassination technique. Kakashi let out a weak chuckle. Yeah. It's loud and flashy. More of a combat technique, really. He said, repeating Naruto's words from years ago, that he did remember. Naruto smiled a sad, true smile. And the name doesn't even fit. Lightning cutter. Purple wind swirled, mixing with blood. It screeched, dancing around Naruto's hand and wrist. This would be it. Tonight, I'm cutting through lightning itself. Naruto said with grim resolve. Storm release, lightning cutter. In that case, make sure you are able to back up your claim. Kakashi simply said. They blurred. Purple struck purple, and a dome of lightning exploded around them, ravaging the mountaintop. Later, some would say this summit was where two Raijin had fought. And their might had pierced the very heavens. In the end, for all of Kakashi's speed, the Sharingan, and his determination to kill, he was too slow, and his jutsu was simply weaker than Naruto's. Naruto's wind blade sliced through, carved its way into Kakashi's chest, and his entire arm went through him. Kakashi's purple lightning blade halted once he was struck, barely managing to penetrate Naruto's chest. The white light chakra saber, in his other hand, clattered to the ground. Fast. Kakashi muttered. You've gotten, so fast. The chakra around Kakashi faded to nothing but wispy remnants. His hand raised to touch Naruto's face, leaving bloody smears along his face. They mixed with Naruto's tears. Why was he crying? He had needed to do this. In this, at least. Kakashi began, the ghost of a smile upon his face. In this, you are, your father's son. Naruto wanted to close his eyes. He really did. but he would not do his former teacher this disservice. The least he could do after killing him would be watching the consequences of his actions. I'm sorry. Naruto. Naruto's eyes were burning, fat tears rolling down his face. Don't be. If anything, I should be. You taught me well. Kakashi smiled gratefully. Naruto felt his own heart clench. It was nice. He chuckled, blood staining his mask. Too bad, we don't see eye to eye. A sad chuckle escaped Naruto as well. In another life, maybe we do. Naruto said. For an instant, he remembers all of the lives where Kakashi became his lifelong mentor. A trusted friend, and an advisor. For a moment, they peer into each other's hearts. Ninshu, as they called it. For two uncompromising men, both unwilling to concede anything tonight. And even if they don't agree with the other, at this moment, they understand. Yeah. I'm sure we do. Naruto smiled, his voice thick with emotion. That's something. Rest, Kakashi. It is more than time. He said softly. Kakashi's hand went to his left eye. There, his fingers halted. Naruto understood he was about to crush the Sharingan. He let him do so. Then, Kakashi looked into his eyes. He seemed to reach a decision. Lesser evils. Take it. Kakashi whispered. Stop him. Stop. Obito. He would destroy. The man's pulse was slowing, Naruto knew. He had no more time. With rising horror, Naruto understood what he was about to do. Don't you dare dash. The fingers pressed in. Kakashi held his hand out, pressing something into his hand. His hand was covered in thick red and black blood. He knew exactly what the thing he barely managed to hold in it was. Kakashi fell back, slowly. His remaining eye was losing clarity with every passing second. If this is how it must be. Why? Don't let the world down. Take Kakashi died. Chapter 110, To Kill a Shadow 2. Kakashi's blood was all over Naruto's hand, up to his wrist. The rest of the blood covering him was his. But not this was his teacher's. The man was lying on the broken earth, staring sightlessly at the falling snow. The muddy earth, half dirt and half melted snow, slowly turned red. Kakashi's chest had been blown clean open. By his hand. The one that was still covered in his blood. That would have been a Hokage's heart. His hands were shaking, both of them. Was this really what he wanted? I killed him. I murdered Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi's eye. The eye that he had entrusted to him was still firmly in his grip. Naruto took a long breath, steeling his resolve. That was the path he had taken. Kakashi had died for it. He would do all of them a disservice by abandoning it just because his heart felt as though it had broken in 1,000 pieces. You couldn't have peace without removing men of war. If Kakashi chose to defend them. It was needed. It was needed. For a moment, though, Naruto just stood there. He stared far in the distance, where he could not see, south and west. To the place where he had grown up. And he remembered a young boy named Sarutobi Naruto. The tremors stopped. He left the body here. Kakashi was a Konoha ninja through and through. In days, they would find him. The least he could do for him was let him be buried in his home. If Konoha went through the man's brain, as they likely would try, then so be it. They still wouldn't find the marks when they were not in use. And maybe they would take the Akatsuki threat a bit more seriously. Naruto gathered his chakra once more, and disappeared with a sharp sound. He ignored the sad eyes and the white hair he thought he saw for a fraction of a moment. The first thing he did when he arrived in UMI, after passing the security check and they had looked worried when he came in, covered in blood, was to throw up. Maybe this is going to be harder than I thought. Naruto thought grimly. I could make it easier. He washed his face, his mouth, and the tears mixed with the cold water that he splashed upon his face. Naruto walked back home. Naruto. He heard Ino's voice ask urgently, as she opened the door. Is it you? What the fuck happened dash? Then she took in his state. He was drenched in blood. She paled. Naruto? Are you dash? Yeah. Came his subdued response. I'm fine. I'll be fine. She came closer to him, and the utter worry in his eyes made him tears prick at his eyes. Are you injured or? I was, but I healed, mostly. It's not my blood. Not really. She lunged forward, unable to hold back. I thought you ran into, you're here. He returned the embrace, still feeling the pull of the void. Yeah. Yeah, I am. What happened? You cut the link. Sakura came back dash. Sakura. Naruto snapped out of it. Is she alright? Please tell me that dash. Ino nodded against him. Yes, she is. Karen is still tending to her. Naruto felt his shoulders drop in relief, and the ice that had still been in his stomach melted away. Then he started to shake, uncontrollably. Am I crying? He felt the hot emotion, unbearably strong. There's nothing wrong with it. Let it out. Ino said softly, embracing him. She brought both of them to a sitting position. There he sobbed for a while. I killed him. Naruto said roughly. Who? Ino asked, breathlessly. Naruto's lips moved, but he found it hard to talk. Sensei. He rasped out. I killed Kakashi. Let's get you cleaned up. Then we can talk with the others. Ino finally said, leading him into the house. And in his last moments, he gave me his sherry non. Naruto finished, slouched into a pile of covers, staring anywhere but into their eyes. He had shown them the memories of most of the night, as well, to their horror. Sakura looked at him, looking less like a cold-blooded murderer and more like a lost young man. She didn't care about Kakashi dying, at all. She had barely known the man. And he had almost decapitated her. The wound would leave a nasty scar, even after Karen used her healing chain on her. And the Uzumaki woman could fix wounds that most medic ninja wouldn't even bother with. But she understood that it had been his sensei. She couldn't even imagine how she would have felt if she had had to kill Kurane. Thanks. She said simply, her voice more raspy than usual. Hopefully this would only be temporary. What for? Naruto asked her, shaking his head. For doing it. I know it must have been terrible. But you saved me. She said, rubbing her wound gingerly. I'd be dead if you hadn't. Only because we let you go there alone dash. She rolled her eyes. We're not damsels in distress. We help each other. Things worked out decently, anyway. Sakura rasped out. Decently. Sure. She shrugged. We killed the target, captured the two others, and got rid of the Hokage's hound. Isn't it good? Naruto's hands went to his hair. I don't know. Of course you won't feel any good after killing a man you used to care about. Karen said, glaring at Sakura. Naruto sighed. Now. Sakura continued. I don't mean to be insensitive. Ino rolled her eyes. You would never. Sakura ignored her. What are we going to do with the eyes? Both of them, I mean. Toru's. Naruto winced. Nothing. He finally said. You sure? Karen asked dubiously. The nations would give up on fortunes for a chance to get their hands on it. Maybe it is so. Naruto shrugged. Do what you want with it. Me. I'm not touching them. Why not? Sakura asked. Kakashi gave it to you. And Toru would not have mind. Stop it. Naruto said, looking as though he were in pain. Please. I think I understand your feelings on this. Sakura said. Is this what it's about? Naruto closed his eyes before he spoke. Okay. Naruto growled. How about, the voices in my head are insisting, trying to make it sound like the most logical course of action. I take one, either of them, both, and put them into my eye sockets. There was a long silence. Yeah. That does sound kinda like a bad omen. Sakura admitted. Voices? Several of them. Ino asked, her worry now showing. Naruto didn't look at her. It's Indra. And some memories, that's it. Ino looked at him for a long time. We're going to have to see about this. He snorted. Yeah. It's bad, anyway I see it. Sakura decided. If none of you mind. She began. I'll take over Kakashi's eye. A long silence stretched. What? Why? Karen asked. It's a huge chakra drain and you have the smallest reserves, Ino continued. I know. I have the best control over my chakra, though. Sakura waved off. And I don't plan on keeping it on most of the time. Are you sure it's a good idea? Ino asked. Nope. Then why? Kakashi said something about the masked man Obito, right? Sakura asked. That means there's something we can do with this eye to counter him. I'm decent at killing people, and fleeing. He can become intangible, Orochimaru said. Naruto finally said, just wishing to be done with it. Kakashi was able to make things disappear. Maybe it would work on that man, too. Only one way to know this for sure. Sakura shrugged. Any objections? There were none. You can call me Sharingan Sakura, or something. Everybody else frowned. Too early. Naruto couldn't sleep, as he had imagined. He stood on the roof of their house, looking toward the lake. Karen was next to him, huddled against him. They just had a few tentative plans for the future, but he really didn't feel in any sort of thinking mood, right now. He would have asked Orochimaru, but the man was gone entirely again. Even Anko didn't know where he had gone this time. Only that he had left a few training instructions behind, for the time he would be gone. Which probably wouldn't be that long. Naruto and Karen had other things on their minds right now. Still, the sun rose. They had executed the two root members, once they figured they had gotten everything they would get from them. There was no satisfaction to be found there. Including most of their secrets. Which frankly, disgusted him to his core. Naruto knew every village had their own dirty secrets, but knowing just a bit about how much inner violence, backstabbing, wariness, suspicion and lies Konoha was built on. It only redoubled his resolve to break things up. Still, Naruto mourned and grieved openly for Toru and Kakashi. The fact that he had killed one of them himself didn't change that. Huh. Sakura made a surprised sound. What is it? Karen asked. I thought the Sharingan was supposed to come with a lot of clarity. Or good vision, at least. Toru had sent them a few battle memories through the link, and each of them came with the sort of clarity that made their own normal sight look like a very inadequate thing, as though they were looking at the world through a smudged glass, when compared to his Sharingan. It doesn't. Karen frowned. Not really, everything is kinda blurry. Really? Karen asked. Did I fuck something up when transferring it? I don't know, really. It does show me chakra and also. Maybe the eye is damaged. Sakura tried. I mean, it's not horrible, but I'd say it's a bit worse than my regular eye. Karen's brows scrunched in thought. I have no idea. Naruto came by, looking white as a sheet. He quickly got to the gist of it. Toru told me that its Mangekyo form makes the user go blind. Kakashi had it, he used it during our fight. I think this could be it. He probably used it a lot before. Sakura groaned. For real? So now I get to have this half-blind eye? It's already disorienting enough as is. Nobody forced you to plug it in. Naruto said dryly. It's you who insisted on having the eye of a dead man. It sounded like a good idea. Sakura muttered. She took a long pull on her pipe, letting the smoke blow with a satisfied sigh. The fact that she had called Ino just so she could light it was not exactly winning her points with the Yamanaka. Really? Naruto asked in disbelief. What? You barely got healed. So? Do you have to smoke this indoors? Naruto asked with an expression of distaste. It reminds me of the old man. Sakura shrugged. I picked it because of him, so. Can't you make up some ceiling thing or? I don't know. Do your thing. He sighed. Yeah. I can. See, no big deal then. She laughed. There won't even be any smell, that way. Naruto rolled his eyes. That would be something else entirely. It clings to clothes, as well. Can't you put something like this on the pipe directly? Some sort of scentless smoke thing. I don't know. It's a waste of time. What about your lungs? Karen can heal me in a blink. Right, Karen. It's a waste of chakra. Naruto contested. I don't mind. Karen shrugged. All right. If it doesn't smell or cling, that's your problem. Naruto sighed. Give me your pipe for a second, I'll do something about it. He left with it. Are you sure you strong-arming him into it is a good idea? Karen asked. He might pay you back somehow. Of course not. Sakura laughed. Why would he? And doing it now, especially. Karen admonished her. Sakura turned a bit more serious. I think he prefers to do something, anything, right now. They paused. As you say. Karen shrugged. It was the truth. She went back to examining Sakura's new eye. Naruto would figure out a way to slip in a nicotine-destroying property in the pipe. It would keep his mind away from more pressing concerns, such as the emotions he wanted to run away from. Maybe keeping busy was not the best way to deal with grief, but he didn't have a much better outlet, right now. But mostly, it was about pettiness. They'd see how much Sakura enjoyed smoking her tobacco-free herbs. That would teach her to strong-arm him into doing something for her. Ungrateful rat. It would be a while before she caught on, and realized she had been duped, of course. Naruto idly noticed his hands were shaking a bit. Why was that? He wasn't even thinking about. What are you working on? Hanabi asked, slipping behind him. Naruto almost jumped. He really had been distracted, then. He hid the pipe behind his back, as if she could tell what he had done to it. Not much. Are you hiding something important? She frowned. Nah. Her eyes were upon him, pupilless white, with a hint of lilac. She had a great poker face, honestly. He could not tell if she was being serious about this or just fucking with him. Okay. She said. He noticed that she was wearing a sleeveless, emerald green dress today. She really changed clothes often. Well, if the cloak was useful to her, great. Naruto also realized she was entirely out of the loop. They really didn't see that much of her these last days. Not since Toru's funeral. Are you busy with the comics? He asked her, trying to go for a topic that was harmless. The comics? No. It's actually really easy to write. Hanabi shrugged. Now I have to see this. Honestly, Naruto expected something pretty. Huh. There was no polite way for him to even express what he thought about it. Really? He said instead. Why are you looking at me like this? Hanabi frowned. It's just. I thought you'd have some trouble with it. Because you think I'm not funny. She glared at him. I would never dash. I know. I'm only joking. Hanabi rolled her eyes. To us were your question. Nah, I don't have any trouble. Not at all. I can crank a few of them a day in a similar style as Toru's, and keep up with my training at the same time. She shrugged. The bracer you made seems to work, by the way, so thank you. A few comics a day? How do you do it? Toru was somewhat slow, with the comics, I mean. Naruto finished, noticing a small grin pulling at the corners of Hanabi's mouth. How do I, what? How do you write comics in his style? It's easy. I put myself in his shoes. How? I think of being me, and then I take away reason, emotional control, and wisdom. Naruto paused. Gods. Yeah, there was definitely a smile forming on her lips. Then despite himself, he chuckled. Then Naruto was laughing. So hard that tears blurred his eyes. Surprisingly enough, she joined him in his half-manic laughter. And soon they were close to crying, not sure what this was about anymore. Sorry for that, Naruto finally said, a last chuckle trailing off. They lapsed into comfortable silence, and he returned to what he was doing with the pipe. Why don't you come over for dinner anymore? Naruto asked. Hanabi simply shrugged. Are you very busy or? Naruto asked. No, not really. Naruto also knew she didn't really have any friends besides them here. Well. She frowned. Toru is not here anymore, so. You thought we put up with you because of him? Naruto asked in disbelief. Hanabi just shrugged again, not looking so confident, right now. Well, this won't do. Naruto decided, shaking his head. You're our friend too. He almost slipped a believe it at the end of the sentence. She lifted a perfect eyebrow. Am I? Yup. So be here for dinner tonight. It's not some weird persuasion thing to make me join your? Hanabi asked, with some suspicion. Naruto sighed. There's no sex cult. Plus, considering the shit you're reading, I don't know what you're talking about. She denied. Great poker face. Alright. I'll come for dinner, then. He liked her, for some reason he could not understand. And it really wouldn't do to leave her alone to wallow in her own grief too much. Not that he was one to talk. His hands were shaking a bit, still. During the night, Karen's eyes opened, but she remained frozen. Bathed in the moonlight that passed through the window, a woman sat against the wall. Karen tried to scream, but nothing happened. The woman with snow-white hair said nothing, and did nothing either. She simply stared at Naruto's sleeping body, seeing something that simply wasn't there. Then Karen woke up. She extended her chakra senses, but no one had been around, besides them. A bad dream, then. The other villages are starting to talk about what happened in Konoha. Ino said. Which part? Naruto asked, watching Sakura trying to make sense of how the Sharingan worked with Hanabi's help. It was better than. Well. All of it. Danzo, then. Did they find Kakashi already? Yes. As well as the two Gonroot members, the ones we kidnapped earlier on, fighting Uchiha Shisui in a public hospital dash. I got you. Naruto winced. Yeah, I mean it does sound pretty bad when you put it like this. You think this is bad? Ino looked at him in disbelief. Have you seen the headlines? Nah. I don't really care about the news. You should. Ino insisted. Anko used to show me the worst of it. Naruto grunted in answer. I got all I ever needed to know about it. Well, take a look at this, then. Of Sea and Flames, Land of Fire Under Attack. By Higashia Yumi. The Herald of the End of Times. By Inu Takahiro. Who is Uzumaki Naruto? By Inomoto Yuri. Konoha's Shadow Assassinated. By Okumura Haru. I see. Naruto said dryly. You see? Ino asked, shrilly. That's it. Well, it's the truth. He shrugged. How can you be so casual about it? Ino repeated, not understanding his attitude. They're going to publish this shit anyway. It just so happens to be true, this time. I assume they had proof, too. Some of them had a few conclusive elements. Ino nodded. All right. I'm not sure what to do, honestly. Ino sighed. Any ideas? Naruto smiled. They already believe we're unrepentant murderers, right? Yes. There's only one thing we can really do at this point, isn't there? What do you mean? Just. Let's go with what Sakura wanted to write, honestly. But, wait a few days, until your parents are out of the village if they agree, all right. You warned, my mother. Sakura did. And her parents, as well. If they want to come live here, before shit hits the storm, that's their choice. Naruto shrugged. Now of course, Konoha might set up a trap for us when we go and get them, so. I love you, you know. I know. Naruto smiled slightly, like sunshine after rain. Me too. Konoha. The Hokage's room was eerily silent. Two men flanked the fire shadow, and his face was hidden under the heavy hat. In truth, Narashikaka was just a placeholder, before someone else stepped up. He was a strategist first and foremost, but lacked the strength the role needed. The man was aware of it, and knowing him, was probably glad for it. Uchiha Sasuke stood in front of him, his eyes red with the Sharingan. And his tears, as well. Still, he kept his face carefully blank. The one tail was laughing, inside of him. He'd have to do something about that, too. Later. Narashikaka stared at him. "You've heard the news, I presume?" he simply asked. "Why? Why did you do it?" Shisui had told him personally. Of their brief clash in the hospital, and Naruto disappearing with Kakashi, presumably using the high ration. About the fact that he knew how to fight the Koda Amatsukami. Sasuke felt that the bad news didn't stop coming. If Jiraiya wasn't who he was, an indomitable madman, he would be afraid for him, now. They had found Kakashi's body, far away from here, a hole in his chest. As well as innumerable blade wounds littering his body. Of course, his eye was missing, too. Naruto and he had been friends once. And he had been Toru's friend, too. How could he have done this? Why did he kill their former teacher? Still, Sasuke nodded, not showing his inner turmoil. "Then, you know what must be done." Shikaka continued, a little bit of sympathy showing through his eyes. It changed nothing. Sasuke understood what he needed to do. He would do it, if it meant protecting his new family. For the murder of Hatake Kakashi, as well as the theft of his Sharingan eye, Uzumaki Naruto, now an S-rank missing nin, must die. "Will you do the job?" Uchiha Sasuke nodded. And then things became a little bit more complicated, in the very same evening. Killing a shadow, and the next. Haruno Sakura, Umise Hinban. "My name is Haruno Sakura. I used to be a Konoha Kunoichi. It might come to you as a surprise, or maybe it won't, but a few days ago, I was a conspirator in the plot to assassinate the 6th Hokage of Konohagakure, Shimura Danzo. Of course, we succeeded. For obvious reasons, we won't get into the details about how we did so in the first place. What we will tell you, instead, are the full circumstances. Because apparently, we are talking about a crime. Now, before we delve into the ethics of what makes a crime, and what doesn't, to my biased eyes, of course let us have an impromptu history lesson. Nothing truly great, considering the matter and the person at hand. But let us begin with a few of the reasons why a rotten bastard like Danzo needed to go. Of course, you are free to make your own opinion, I shall simply be providing the facts, the one we do have, at least. Well. Let us get started with it, then. Because then, there is the matter of Hatake Kakashi's death to address, as well. Check the description for the links to the author.